Chapter 1443, Drawing. Chapter 1443, Drawing. At this time, outside of the game world, over 4 hours had passed since Lin Ming had entered the dimensional realm. Normally, a martial artist would have to spend 14 to 16 hours to gather the 50 skull badges needed for the Blue Soul level reward. This was mainly because no one could be like Lin Ming and simultaneously possess an extremely powerful sense and combat strength. In the broad grasslands, he was able to rapidly find the hiding prey and kill them. For hours, someone said that this human youth's goal was the Zenith Black level reward. What do you think? Currently, no one doubted that Lin Ming would be able to easily complete the Blue Soul level checkpoint. After all, that was just how strong Lin Ming was. He had even easily defeated a 1-star Azura. Moreover, Lin Ming's cultivation had been the lowest of all the trial challengers that entered, so the prey he had to face would be weaker. In this sort of situation, it could be said that gathering the 50 skull badges for the Blue Soul level reward was as easy as taking a stroll through the park, with absolutely no difficulties at all. If the people present had to sum it up, they were simply on a completely different level from Lin Ming. As for the Zenith Black level reward, that degree of difficulty caused all the martial artists present to feel daunted. In the City of Discord, let alone collecting 100 badges to obtain a Zenith Black level reward, even collecting 60 or 70 badges was a rarity that had almost never occurred. Throughout the entire history of this city, there might not be anyone who had accomplished that. Perhaps in ancient times there were some people that had obtained 100 skull badges in the City of Discord, but that sort of knowledge was long lost in the dust of time. No one was able to keep records that far back. No one knew just what Lin Ming would achieve, but at this time, the transmission array portal suddenly shimmered. Someone was coming out. Besides Lin Ming, everyone else had been eliminated. If there was someone coming out, then it could only be Lin Ming. How could this be? 4 hours, it was that fast. In the opinions of these people, taking 4 hours to complete the Zenith Black level mission reward was impossible. Even completing the Blue Soul level checkpoint was impossible in such a short time. That human boy was defeated. Impossible. He is so strong that he can complete that Blue Soul level checkpoint even if his eyes are closed. If he used only 4 hours, that is simply because he is too strong, not because he was unable to complete the checkpoint. It's just that with only 4 hours, obtaining the Zenith Black level reward is unlikely. No one knew just what Lin Ming had experienced in the game world. The portal flashed once more and then Lin Ming appeared. He didn't have any visible wounds or injuries. Or, perhaps he was wounded but had already recovered in the game world. In the slaughter-filled Azura Road, no one wanted to be injured with enemies all around. The guards of the Silver Snow Corps brought forth the Wheel of Destiny. The simple and heavy metal disc was set down in front of Lin Ming. It looked stained and ancient, revealing an aura that seemed to come from the beginning of time. Trial Challenger, you may place the skull badges you obtained within the Wheel of Destiny to obtain the corresponding rewards. 50 skill badges correspond to a Blue Soul level reward and 100 skull badges correspond to a Zenith Black level reward. As the Silver Snow Guard spoke, he looked curiously towards Lin Ming. He too was looking forwards to seeing just how many skull badges Lin Ming had obtained. Lin Ming thought for a moment. He was thinking to somehow conceal the fact that he won the Zenith Black level drawing reward, but with the method to get the reward the way it was, he was doomed to be unable to hide it. In the City of Discord, being too high profile wasn't a good thing. This was especially true if it was known he had obtained something like a Zenith Black level reward. After all, this was bound to arouse the jealousy of others and even bring life-threatening dangers onto himself. In the City of Discord there were always those that were stronger, for instance, Holy Lord level martial artists. Lin Ming took a deep breath and placed all the badges in the Wheel of Destiny. His speed was extremely fast, and along with him blocking the view of his hands, no one was able to see how many skull badges he put in. How many were there? I couldn't see it but I feel there were more than 50. If it was more than 50 but less than 100, then the reward was still the same as obtaining 50. A Blue Soul level reward. You may draw. A Silver Snow Guard said from not too far away. Lin Ming had completed 2 checkpoints at once, so he could draw twice. Now, he began his first drawing. This was also the Blue Soul level drawing. At Lin Ming's level, a Blue Soul level drawing reward wasn't too valuable to him. He was aiming towards completing over 90% of the Azura Road's smelting trial. To him, only the second drawing mattered. Lin Ming stood before the Wheel of Destiny. Everyone's eyes were locked onto him. The legends said that this Wheel of Destiny was an artifact created by the Azura Road Master himself. It grasped the destiny of the world and controlled strange and profound laws. According to a trial challenger's destiny, 3 types of drawings were possible. The worst drawing choice was to obtain a Blue Soul level mission badge. The next possibility was to obtain a rare Blue Soul level God rune. As for the best reward, that was also the most mysterious. That was to draw destiny. In these last several millions of years, no one had ever managed to do this. After 2-star and 3-star Asuras made their drawing, even they were unable to draw the third possibility. The most they obtained was a rare Blue Soul level rune. This was already an extremely good result. Lin Ming didn't hesitate in front of the Wheel of Destiny. He poured his true essence into it and started his drawing. The Wheel of Destiny quickly spun as the runes atop it lit up one at a time. No one knew just where it would stop. It's begun. What great resolve. A normal person would take several deep breaths and pray to the heavens before starting their draw. After all, a person can only obtain a reward once in their lifetime in the hunter game, so how could they not avoid all chances of being careless? But this human youth didn't even bat an eye before he began his drawing. Let's see what he pulls out. Everyone's eyes were glued to the Wheel of Destiny. It spun faster and faster, reaching incredible speeds. Then, it slowly decelerated. The lights lit up over and over, and the final shining rune would indicate just what Lin Ming would obtain. After 10 breaths of time, the Wheel of Destiny stopping spinning. The final several runes shimmered, dimming down and leaving behind a single shining dagger rune. The blood-dripping dagger, that is, the first possibility, a mission badge. Many people present had already thoroughly researched the Wheel of Destiny. They knew what rewards every rune on the Wheel of Destiny represented. The first possibility was a mission badge. It was also the worst possibility. This human, he is so strong and yet he draws out this garbage. His luck is too bad. In the legends, the drawing that the Wheel of Destiny lands on is related to that person's destiny. This human youth is so incredibly talented and yet he gets the worst choice. Does he not have any destiny upon him? He made such a ridiculous scene, but his final result was the same as Lord Dugu Li's. Hilarious. I originally thought that at the worst he would draw the second possibility, or perhaps even the third. Many people came here to watch because they wanted to see a different result. After all, it was natural to want to personally witness something that only occurred every several thousand years. But in the end, what Lin Ming drew was the first possibility. He was no different from the many other trial challengers that had come before him. This left everyone a tad disappointed, but there were also many people gloating over Lin Ming's drawing. As these people thought that even a peak genius drew something similar to them, their mood was much happier. However, at this moment, something occurred that left them all dumbfounded. After Lin Ming completed his first drawing, without any delay at all, he poured all of his energy into the Wheel of Destiny and directly began his second drawing. What Lin Ming poured into the Wheel of Destiny was no longer just true essence, but true essence, astral essence, and spirit essence, all as one. This was also called the power of divinity. The second drawing. Heavens! He really completed the Zenith Black level checkpoint. It was just 4 hours. This is too abnormal. Before this, there were some people who speculated that no matter how talented Lin Ming was, it would be impossible for him to pass the Zenith Black level reward challenge. After all, besides the most ancient of times, in the last several 100 million years of the City of Discord's history, there had never been a person who appeared that was able to obtain the Zenith Black level reward. This caused everyone to subconsciously think that no matter what happened, Lin Ming would never succeed. But now, all of them watched as the Wheel of Destiny began to spin around, as if it was screaming to them that all their previous thoughts were wrong. The Wheel of Destiny rapidly spun, yet Lin Ming maintained his calm. But in this moment, within his flesh and blood, there was a god rune that was faintly shimmering. This was one of the 2 god runes that Lin Ming had obtained in the world of the Hunter game after he defeated the 36 golden armored warriors for a second time, the Blessing of God. This was a Zenith Black level rune. With it, he could directly increase his own destiny. In a crucial life or death moment, or perhaps in the danger zones of a mystic realm, he could rely on this rune to turn bad luck into good, saving himself from the precipice of doom. However, Lin Ming also believed that no matter how wonderful this blessing of God was, it could not increase his destiny infinitely. Destiny was illusory and ephemeral. Empyreans, and even true divinities, could not fully unravel it. But there was something that everyone knew, and that was that destiny was not endless, whether it was for a sect, a dynasty, or even an unrivaled martial arts master. If they freely spent their destiny, then they would eventually overdraw it and it would slowly exhaust itself. This was what others meant when they said that one's destiny was over, that their days had come to an end. Destiny needed to be accumulated. For a sect to raise a peak supreme elder, that could take hundreds of thousands or even millions of years of accumulated destiny. And once they succeeded, this would also greatly exhaust their destiny. Perhaps after that extreme supreme elder died, the sect would begin to decline. This was the so-called decline after the flourish. What goes up must eventually come down. Whether it was a sect or a dynasty, this sort of phenomenon would occur because their destiny was exhausted. When Lin Ming made his first drawing, not only did he suppress the power of the blessing of God, but he also only activated the wheel of destiny with true essence. His goal was to not pull out anything good. But this time, he pushed the blessing of God to the limit and activated the spinning of the wheel of destiny with his strongest energy, 3 essences as one. He believed that since the Azura Roadmaster also cultivated the concept of the 33-layered heavens, then using the combined power of essence, energy, and divine would allow him to obtain the approval of the wheel of destiny much more easily. In addition, there was the blessing of God that he had obtained from the Hunter game. This sort of God rune might have been especially left in there for this exact drawing. Lin Ming had sacrificed his first reward in order to hedge everything he had on this second drawing to obtain the best result he could. The wheel of destiny rapidly spun. The shining runes atop the disc had already gathered into dazzling beams of light. Chapter 1444. One's talent arouses the envy of others. Chapter 1444. One's talent arouses the envy of others. As Lin Ming steadily stared at the spinning wheel of destiny, he also kept his guard up at full alert. At the start, no one believed that Lin Ming would be able to complete the Zenith Black level mission. They only thought that his talent was a bit refreshing, thus he attracted the attention of so many people. Even if Lin Ming were to complete the Blue Soul level checkpoint and pulled out a relatively high reward, no one would covet his possessions because he had enough strength to protect himself. But, if Lin Ming were to complete the Zenith Black level mission and draw out something even more precious, then that was not some small event, that was something that could alarm even holy lords and world kings. In the City of Discord, where there were no rules but strength, Lin Ming would be placed in an extremely dangerous situation. The Wheel of Destiny began to slow down. All of the martial artists present watched with breath abated. In the center of the Wheel of Destiny, there was an ancient rune word, Destiny. This was also the most mysterious reward of all. Of course, besides Lin Ming, not many people bothered looking at the Destiny rune. They simply didn't believe that Lin Ming had a chance of pulling it out. If Lin Ming was able to obtain the Zenith Black level reward and obtain a single drawing chance, that was already a nearly unbelievable event. As for drawing that mystical Destiny rune, that was simply a joke and a half. It wasn't that they didn't believe in Lin Ming, but that in the minds of these people, the possibility of drawing that Destiny rune never existed to begin with, no matter who tried. The Zenith Black level reward was something only seen every several 100 million years. As for drawing the third possible Zenith Black reward, the degree of difficulty in accomplishing that was inconceivable. Many people suspected that in the last several 100 million years, in all the cities on the outskirts of the Azura Road, there had never been anyone capable of drawing that third Zenith Black reward possibility. The runes continued to shimmer. Some conscientious people had already taken out sound-transmitting talismans, ready to send out news of what was happening. Lin Ming had only spent 4 hours in the Hunter game, and with no one thinking that he could ever have obtained the Zenith Black level reward, news was limited to those in Black God Fort, with no one outside knowing. But now, many people had the idea to rob all of Lin Ming's harvests. Although Lin Ming was talented, his cultivation was actually limited. A rare Zenith Black God rune could not only enhance one's strength, but it was also a necessary rune required to open the way to the Azura Road's final smelting trial. Even if it were impossible for anyone in this city to participate, they could still sell it for an unimaginable level of wealth. None of these little actions escaped Lin Ming's notice. However, he didn't bother with them. At this time, the Wheel of Destiny had nearly come to a stop. The hundreds and thousands of runes shimmered on and off without any pattern to them. Because the Wheel of Destiny had nearly stopped spinning, these runes lit up for longer and longer, and the speed at which they alternated shining became increasingly slow. The runes would light up for almost an entire breath of time. This meant that the end result was soon about to appear. The Sun of Suffocation, the Soul-Bleached Bones, the Fiery Buddha's Blade, the Stone of Resurrection. Every shining rune had its own name. Finally, a rune named the Rainbow Bridge lit up for almost 3 breaths of time before fading away with an almost daring unwillingness. Then, the last rune lit up. Everyone's eyes widened, nearly popping out of their eyes with blatant disbelief. Well, it was more accurate to say that this was not a single rune, but 2 runes joined together to form a word. This word was the most mystical possibility of all: destiny. This was the third reward, the ultimate rune, destiny. Everyone was shocked speechless, but Lin Ming's actions were quick. He tamped down the rising excitement in his heart and placed his hand on the Wheel of Destiny. At that moment, he could feel something forming within the Wheel of Destiny. This was likely the reward he was about to obtain. A white light radiated out, shining over everyone watching. It was like a second sun had risen inside Black God Fort's second level, making everyone close their eyes from the glare. The third reward, destiny? Moreover, it's the third reward from the Zenith Black drawing? Is this reality? Am I dreaming here? This is too strange. How can there be such a freakish genius? In the hall, everyone's eyes went red with jealousy. And at this time, the dazzling thing that was being formed appeared. Lin Ming didn't even bother looking at it. With a wave of his hand, that object directly submerged into his palm. It didn't go into his spatial ring, but directly drilled into his body. He didn't bother investigating with his sense, but strode straight down the platform. Soul-white. Lin Ming sent out a true essence sound transmission. Master, this old servant is here. Soul-white was also completely dumbfounded. But, he too could feel how tense the atmosphere was. There were countless pairs of eyes targeting Lin Ming like daggers. We're leaving. As Lin Ming walked down from the platform, many martial artists present held their breaths, their eyes shining brilliantly. They stared at Lin Ming's hand. The divine light that appeared had hidden itself in there. They didn't know what Lin Ming had drawn. In order to confirm that, they would need to chop off Lin Ming's right hand. Everyone in the City of Discord was a desperado, those who did evil without caring for the lives of others. Some people began to trace their spatial rings, their auras rapidly revolving. If it wasn't for Lin Ming being far too strong, they would have already attacked. Although fighting was forbidden in Black God Fort, this so-called rule was only a commonly accepted custom in the City of Discord. At this time, who could still care about such customs? But, they also knew that trying to steal away the mysterious object that Lin Ming had drawn in the chaos of battle was impossible by virtue of their own strength. Instead, they could easily draw the disaster of death upon themselves. Even so, in the face of such intense greed, with a chance that they could ascend to the heavens in a single bound, how many people here could still hold themselves back? Everyone began to think that perhaps the god of fortune would descend upon their bodies. Perhaps in the ensuing chaos they could steal away that mysterious object without others knowing. Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a cold and callous light. He walked forwards one step at a time, making others retreat from his path. In the eyes of these people, the suppressive aura Lin Ming gave off was far too strong. The Zenith Black level reward that hadn't been obtained for the last several 100 million years had been obtained by him, and during the drawing, even that most mysterious third reward was obtained by him. This type of person most likely had an unrivaled destiny on their side, and most likely some unimaginable ability. Whoever tried to attack him first would likely die a most miserable death. Some people even made way for Lin Ming. This was because they were pressured by his aura. At this time, a voice suddenly sounded out. "Little brother, how about coming to the City Lord Mansion for a little visit? I'm sure that the great City Lord would appreciate such a handsome young elite as yourself." Lin Ming turned around. Atop the platform, a tall silver-armored guard had appeared. This person's entire body shimmered with a sparkling light. He was a spiritus martial artist. There was a great difference between this person's silver armor and the other silver snow guards. This person's armor looked heavier and there was also a silver kireen carved into it. It was obvious that this person held a very high status in the Silver Snow Corps. As soon as Lin Ming saw this person, his pupils shrank. This person actually had a Holy Lord level cultivation. Currently, Lin Ming didn't fear Holy Lords, but that was only early Holy Lords. This silver-armored guard was not someone as simple as an early Holy Lord no matter how he saw it. This was because this guard was a spiritus, so he was unable to accurately measure his cultivation. But even so, Lin Ming could approximately judge him to be equal to the middle or late human Holy Lord realm. Although Lin Ming was confident he could escape, this was sure to delay him by a great deal of time. In his current situation, this delay could prove fatal. Moreover, more and more powerful people would catch up to the scene. Even the City of Discord's City Lord might arrive. At that time, he wouldn't be able to escape even if he had wings. As this silver-armored warrior put forth this invitation to Lin Ming, this acted like a trough of cold water being poured over everyone's head, immediately extinguishing their greedy hearts and having them calm down. Whatever mysterious object had been drawn, it wasn't something they could obtain even at the cost of their lives. Lin Ming thought for a moment and then smiled. Well, if Sir extends me such a gracious invitation, then this junior won't refuse. Master, behind Lin Ming, Solwhite felt his heart gripped. He wanted to remind Lin Ming that the City Lord of the City of Discord had a World King level cultivation. If Lin Ming were to enter the City Lord Mansion, he would never emerge from there. No matter how strong Lin Ming was, there was nothing he could do in front of a World King powerhouse. As Solwhite was about to speak, Lin Ming waved his hand, signaling him not to speak again. At that time, Solwhite felt space twist as he was received into Lin Ming's extreme violet ring. Atop the platform, the silver-armored guard remained unmoved as he saw this scene. He kept his sense locked onto Lin Ming. No matter what Lin Ming did in the next moment, he would still be able to take the initiative. Then, shall we go now? The silver-armored guard smiled. Lin Ming nodded and uttered out a stiff, "Okay." Just as his voice fell, Lin Ming's eyes flashed with a brilliantly cold light. At the same time, all of the strength hidden within his body wildly erupted. True essence, astral essence, and spirit essence gathered together, 3 essences as one. Simultaneously, Lin Ming also unleashed the Grand Mist energy within him. The Grand Mist space surged forth. Hoo! A terrifying force field spread out, covering a radius of 100 feet and trapping hundreds of people inside. Within this force field, the massive pressure left everyone short of breath, making it feel as if their blood vessels would crack open. "Boy, it seems you want to do things the hard way." On the platform, the silver-armored guard suddenly attacked. Meanwhile, the other silver-armored guards also moved, including every other guard in Black God Fort. Black God Fort forbids all fighting. All offenders shall have their martial arts crippled. A guard shouted out loud. Lin Ming only sneered. At this time they were still looking for a reason to attack him. Heavenly Tao Judgment. The phantom of the heretical god tree appeared behind Lin Ming. Lin Ming thrust out his spear. His goal was the leader of these silver-armored guards. As the surrounding martial artists saw this terrifying divine light rise up, all of them felt a cold chill shoot up their spines. This attack was far too strong. Even the shockwaves might be enough to kill them. It was true that they were greedy, but they weren't greedy to the point of entering a fight they were sure to die in. Once the City Lord arrived and involved himself in this mess, no one here would be able to escape. Run! As the martial artists saw the power of thunder and fire heavenly tribulation about to explode, all of them rushed out like a tide, fearing that they would die in the aftermath. At the same time, the silver-armored guard captain also extracted a tall silver tower shield from his spatial ring. He shouted out loud, taking a sudden step back as he defended against Lin Ming's strike with this tower shield. Chapter 1445, The City of Discord's City Lord. Chapter 1445, The City of Discord's City Lord. Bang! A terrifying explosion of energy swept up a storm, causing the entire floor to collapse. These floors were created from timeless god stone and also had an array formation to support them, but underneath Lin Ming's attack, the entire level began to cave in. Even the main structure of Black God Fort violently trembled as if it wanted to implode. In this life or death moment, Lin Ming shouted out, "God-forbidding seals, enter my body." His 10 fingers flashed as hundreds of God-forbidding seals formed in the air. These God-forbidding seals of the divine seal art were able to seal away everything, however this time Lin Ming wasn't targeting an enemy, but himself. The God-forbidding seals were similar to miniature black holes. If Lin Ming thrust these God-forbidding seals into his body, this in itself was already an extremely dangerous course of action. If he made even the slightest mistake, then his blood vitality and muscles would be swallowed up. If that happened, the backlash would cause him to be immediately defeated. Lin Ming didn't plan for that. Rather, the reason he used the God-forbidding seals was to swallow up the divine sense that the silver-armored guard captain had placed into his body. In this sort of situation, how could he let someone lock onto him with their sense? This was the same as waiting to die. Kai kai kai. The faint traces of divine sense were inexorably and wildly swallowed up by the God-forbidding seals. The silver-armored guard captain's body suddenly shook. This divine sense was connected to his spiritual sea. Now that it was swallowed in such a crude manner, it was unavoidable for him to suffer a counterattack. Although it was far from injuring him, he didn't feel any better off. "Boy, you want to die," the silver-armored guard captain cried out. He took a sudden step forwards, but at this time, the second level rang out with a rumbling bang once more as another explosion occurred. This was also Lin Ming's attack. He didn't use Heavenly Dao Judgment again, but rather the Thunderfire Annihilation that he hadn't used in an extremely long time. Thunderfire Annihilation was naturally far weaker than Heavenly Dao Judgment, but in terms of blast radius and the flames and divine light that it created, it was superior to Heavenly Dao Judgment. This was because the power of Thunderfire Annihilation was scattered in a much larger area, and although it seemed powerful, it was actually quite weak. As for Heavenly Dao Judgment, all of that strength was condensed together into a relatively smaller scope. For a time, pained cries rang out all throughout Black God Fort. A massive amount of timeless god stone fragments were sent scattering into the air. Lin Ming wasn't aiming for a killing strike. Rather, he wanted the largest blast effect possible to cause the entire building to fall into absolute chaos. Many people began to flee and many were also injured. Even though they had all begun retreating, it was inevitable that they would be caught up in the shockwaves. Pa, pa, pa. The crystal windows of the second floor were shattered. In order to avoid dying in the chaotic battle, many martial artists broke through the windows and jumped out. What followed behind them were tongues of fire and thunder. "You little brat, do you think you can create some confusion and escape? How ridiculous." The silver-armored guard captain had already guessed Lin Ming's plan. He spread out his divine sense, wanting to lock onto Lin Ming's position. "I have already remembered your soul aura. Do you know what a soul aura is? That is as unchangeable as your bones. Even if you change your appearance, you still won't be able to escape my sense. This is the unique ability of the soul race. As long as I remember your soul aura, even if you flee to the ends of heaven or the edges of the sea, I will still find you and catch you." As he laughed, he started moving to chase Lin Ming. But at this time, the smile froze on his face. He discovered that he actually couldn't sense Lin Ming's aura. It was like he had completely vanished. How is this possible? The silver-armored guard captain was immensely surprised. By spreading out his divine sense and locking onto someone's soul aura that he remembered, he could instantly track someone down even within a range of several thousand miles. But now, within the entire scope of his divine sense, Lin Ming had disappeared. "This is impossible. The silver-armored guard captain didn't dare to believe what had happened. From the time that the chaos happened until now, only a single breath of time had occurred. It was impossible for Lin Ming to run several thousand miles in this small span of time. If he were to use the Great Void Shift to pass through space, then he could indeed cross such a distance, but using the Great Void Shift required a certain amount of time to set up. It couldn't be instantly used whenever someone wanted to. Where is he? The silver-armored guard captain was panic-stricken. When Lin Ming had drawn the third possible reward for the Zenith Black level drawing, he had already sent a message to the City Lord. But now, the person had disappeared from his sight. The consequences for this failure would be serious. As the guard captain thought of how ruthless and cruel the City Lord could be, all he felt was fear. Chase after him. The silver-armored guard captain breathlessly ordered. Many other silver-armored guards began to run out from Black God Fort. But currently, there were numerous martial artists milling about the street. In this confusion, how could anyone search for Lin Ming's trail? The silver-armored guard captain was at a loss of what to do. In this brief delay, almost 10 breaths of time had passed. For a peak martial artist, 10 breaths of time was more than enough to cross several hundred miles. If they were skilled in the space laws, then they could go even further. It was likely that the human youth had already fled the city of discord. Damn it all. How did he do this? How is he able to conceal his soul aura? The silver-armored guard captain crazily shouted. But then, his complexion distorted and his entire body turned icy cold. He could feel a terrifying aura approaching. The City Lord had arrived. The City Lord has come. The silver-armored guard captain's face instantly drained of blood. In that moment, he felt the space tighten around him. Soon, a black-robed man slowly appeared. This person wore a silver mask and his entire body emitted a thick demonic energy. Every silver-armored guard fell silent. The pressure that this black-robed man emitted was too great. As the personal guard of the City Lord, they understood just how terrifying he actually was. Everyone envied the Silver Snow Corps for their status, resources, and free residence that they enjoyed. But in truth, only they knew their own pain. To be under his command was the same as being in a cage with a tiger. As the subordinates of the City of Discord's City Lord, they had to be cautious at all times. The slightest slip-up could result in the most severe form of punishments. These were the rules of the Azura Road, completely different from the rules that governed sects in the outside. The rules and following penalties were 100 times more severe than in the outside world. Where is he? The City Lord's voice seemed to rise up from the 9 nether abyss. The silver-armored guard captain fell to his knees, lying prostrate on the ground, too afraid to move. This subordinate was useless, he fled. This subordinate had locked onto that human boy's soul aura, but for some unknown reason he was able to change his soul aura and suddenly disappeared from sight. This subordinate should die. The silver-armored guard captain grit his teeth, his voice trembling as he spoke. Humph. You have a Holy Lord level cultivation and you can't even stop a Divine Transformation Junior from escaping. Just what use have I left for you? The City Lord traced his spatial ring, his entire body exuding killing intent. The silver-armored guard captain shook. He knew that the City Lord was an utterly cruel and merciless man. Even if a Holy Lord powerhouse disobeyed him, he would execute them without any hesitation. City Lord, this subordinate begs your forgiveness. Please allow this subordinate a chance for redemption. The silver-armored guard captain could barely keep his calm. In the face of death, no one was able to remain unmoved. Even holy lords that lived tens of thousands of years were no exception. The City Lord's eyes flashed with a cold light, his fingers still tracing his spatial ring. He didn't immediately answer. Although only a few breaths of time passed, this short period of time was like years to the silver-armored guard captain. The City Lord finally released his spatial ring. Do you know what it means to obtain the 3rd Zenith Black reward from the Wheel of Destiny? In all these years, in all the countless cities of the Azura Road, how many people have been able to obtain this legendary reward? Do you know that this reward is said to be related to the mysterious Azura Road Master? You are just garbage. Even though this is the greatest lucky chance in the last 100 million years, it actually disappeared from before my eyes. You should have reported to me at the very start. Not after he pulled out the Zenith Black level reward. The City Lord was enraged. In his opinion, this destiny should have been his. The treasures of the Azura Road were obtained by those that had the strength to grasp them. Lin Ming's treasures, the things that he obtained in the City of Discord, should all be his. However, he actually wasn't able to grasp this chance to ascend to the heavens in a single leap. This was intolerable. As Azura Road Master, as the silver-armored guard captain heard this news, he began to tremble. He never imagined that mysterious reward would have such significant meanings to it. Just who was the Azura Road Master? That was the legendary ruler of the 33 heavens. From start to finish, the silver-armored guard captain had never imagined that Lin Ming could obtain the Zenith Black level reward. After all, this reward was far too rare. If the silver-armored guard captain had reported to the City Lord after Lin Ming had entered the game world, but Lin Ming didn't manage to obtain the Zenith Black level reward, then he would have equally suffered for reporting something so minor to the City Lord. Afterwards, when Lin Ming had come out, he was extremely crafty. When he had placed the skull badges into the Wheel of Destiny, he had hidden the number of badges he obtained so that no one knew whether it was 50 or 100. Like this, he had managed to delay for a dozen plus more breaths of time. Only like this had he been able to escape before the City Lord arrived. In truth, from start to finish, the silver-armored guard captain had done nothing wrong. Even so, he had gotten the worst of the worst results. If he had to blame someone, he could only blame his own luck for being too bad. Not only did he encounter such a rare and improbable event, but this human youth also had techniques to conceal his soul aura. He had truly stumbled into a bout of bad luck. Now he was forced to suffer in silence, unable to vent his bitterness. After all, who would dare to argue back in front of the City Lord? He could only kneel down and await his punishment. I will not kill you today and will spare your worthless life. It is not because I am showing you mercy, but only because you have remembered the soul aura of that human. I will give you a single chance to redeem yourself. However, even though you can avoid the death penalty, you cannot avoid the punishment for your crimes. I will imprison you for 200,000 years and also plant a slave seal in your body. If you cannot complete the mission assigned to you, then you can die. In the myriad cities of the Azura Road, after several hundreds of millions of years, this unbelievable destiny, this heaven-defying chance, had occurred within his City of Discord. Yet, he wasn't able to obtain it. How could he be resigned to this? Yes. I thank the City Lord for such mercy. The silver-armored guard captain felt his back slick with sweat. Death was truly too terrifying. As for the lot of you, you will also all be punished. Everyone here is imprisoned for 50,000 years. If anyone can catch that human, then generous rewards await you. If you cannot, then all that awaits you is death. The City Lord's voice was icy as he looked at everyone else. All the guards knelt on the ground, too scared to speak. Chapter 1446, Ancient Jade. Chapter 1446, Ancient Jade. After the events at Black God Fort, the entire City of Discord was placed on high alert. When the City Lord learned that Lin Ming had escaped, he used a 1,000-mile sound transmission to inform the guards to start the Great Array formation and seal up the city. The City Lord did this because he thought Lin Ming might not have necessarily left the City of Discord. If he searched the city, he might be able to make some gains. And, more importantly, the City Lord wanted to place a total blockade on all news. He then scanned the logbook for that day in Black God Fort and captured all the martial artists that had appeared there, imprisoning them all. Then, each one of these people had soul-searching god runes used on them to comb through their memories. If any one of them had passed on news to others, those other people would also be equally captured and imprisoned. Then, they would have memory-sealing god runes placed within them. This sort of crazy method reflected the tyrannical rules of the Azura Road. Here, strength was everything. With strength, one could ignore all public opinion and do whatever they wished. As for things like mercy or benevolence, that was simply a joke. The reason for blocking this news was to prevent other top masters from joining the hunt for Lin Ming. Normal martial artists wouldn't know just how valuable the thing Lin Ming obtained was. They only went to look for the fun of it, even the silver-armored guard captain was the same. Although he knew that what Lin Ming obtained was rare, he didn't know just what it meant. But, just because these ordinary martial artists didn't know what it meant didn't mean that the other city lords didn't. If this news spread out and other city lords decided to join in on the action, it would be far more difficult for the City of Discord's city lord to capture Lin Ming. At this time, Lin Ming was completely unaware of all the changes occurring within the City of Discord. He had already fled 50,000 miles north. Here was a forested mountain range. Lin Ming carved his own cave dwelling in this mountain range and temporarily went into seclusion. He had already changed to a completely different appearance. He wore a black robe made from energy, and he was of medium height with average, ordinary looks. His complexion was a bit yellower and his chin a bit pointier. His eyes drooped a little and he looked completely common, like someone you wouldn't notice in a crowd. Now that he needed to escape, the more low-key his appearance was the better. The reason Lin Ming was able to flee this calamity was all because he cultivated the Divine Dream Law's bodily rebirth technique to a high enough boundary. Not only could he easily change his appearance, but he could also change the aura of his soul. Even a great world king wouldn't be able to easily see through his camouflage. When he had planned to leave Divine Dream Heavenly Palace to go on an adventure and temper himself, the first place he chose was not the Azura Road but the Saint Convocation Heaven where the Saint race ruled supreme. Lin Ming had dared to go to the Saint Convocation Heaven because he was able to rely on the bodily rebirth technique. Just from this alone, Lin Ming felt a heartfelt admiration towards Divine Dream. She had actually managed to research the soul forging system to such a refined degree and establish her profound Divine Dream law. Of course, that ordinary Holy Lord level Spiritus Guard captain wasn't able to easily see through Lin Ming's disguise, and part of the reason for that was also because of the magic cube. The magic cube had allowed Lin Ming to understand the Divine Dream law to such a degree that he nearly reached Frost Dream's level of talent. It looks I won't be able to use my original appearance anymore. Then, I'll use this appearance to continue participating in the Azura Road trials. It should be safe enough. Lin Ming had confidence in his own appearance-changing technique. Even if he were to stand in front of the City Lord himself, the City Lord wouldn't be able to recognize him. Only an Empyrean would be able to see through his disguise. Now that the dangers had abated, Lin Ming focused on his right hand. He wanted to see just what it was he drew. Whatever it was, he had risked his life to obtain it. Moreover, it was something that hadn't been seen for several hundreds of millions of years. It shouldn't be too bad. A faint green light appeared in Lin Ming's right hand, slowly gathering together. Finally, it formed a green jade. Lin Ming looked at this jade. It was a deep green and the size of a baby's palm, just like a jade pendant. The surface of the jade had strange carvings on it. Compared to the complex language of the divine realm or saint race, this sort of writing was far simpler, only comprised of 4 strokes. Lin Ming looked at the jade for half a day. He couldn't recall anything about these characters. Just what is this? There isn't any explanation at all. Lin Ming couldn't understand just what effect this ancient jade had. All he could feel from this ancient jade was a vague primal aura, as if it had existed for countless years. However, even after hundreds of millions or even billions of years, this jade remained clean and bright. As he held it in his hands, there was even a slightly warm feeling. Perhaps it can be used when opening the final trial? Lin Ming thought out loud. Just as he was preparing to place it in the magic cube space, a sudden spiritual message flashed in his mind. This message had no words, but it still managed to transmit some blurry information to him. Lin Ming's mind stirred and he poured his divine sense into the ancient jade. Immediately, he could see some faint lines within the ancient jade. These lines formed a complex design. As Lin Ming looked at it, he could feel that it was somewhat similar to a map. And all around this map were blurry comments. As for these words, Lin Ming was able to understand them. They consisted of the divine realm's language as well as the saint race's language. During the period of time after Lin Ming came into contact with the saints and the spiriters, he slowly studied their language. A martial artist had photographic memory and it wasn't too much of a hassle to learn a new language, especially for someone with peerless perception like Lin Ming. Great desolate god trove. Lin Ming slowly read the words, one at a time. Soulwhite, do you know what the great desolate god trove is? Soulwhite emerged from Lin Ming's extreme violet ring, slightly startled. Great desolate god trove. This old servant does not know, but I have heard of the Great Desolate before. That is an extremely large area in the Azura Road, a completely wild and savage wilderness region. Many martial artists go there to temper themselves, but even they only journey around the edges. As for the depths of the Great Desolate, no one dares to go that far. In its depths, there are powerful ancient desolate beasts and even god beasts. Moreover, there is quite a number of them. It is said that there are numerous rare and hidden treasures in the Great Desolate. If one is lucky enough, if your destiny defies the heavens, then you may even find bones of long-dead god beasts. That is a land filled with immense lucky chances, but it is also extremely dangerous. Those who go there are always hanging on to life by a thread, with 9 chances of death and only 1 chance of survival. Lin Ming sucked in a cold breath as he heard Soulwhite's description. God beast. Up until now, Lin Ming had only seen 2 god beasts with his own eyes. The first was the Black Dragon in the Eternal Demon Abyss, and the second was Empyrean Demon contract beast. A normal god beast was slightly weaker than an Empyrean. But there were some god beasts with powerful bloodlines and inherited strengths that were able to compare favorably with peak Empyrean powerhouses. In terms of strength, Empyrean Demon god beast and the Black Dragon in the Eternal Demon Abyss were on completely different levels. Although Lin Ming had never seen the Black Dragon within the Eternal Demon Abyss fight, he could confirm that it was no weaker than Empyrean Primordius was in the past. Otherwise, it would have been impossible for the Black Dragon to fight side by side with Empyrean Primordius. In this Great Desolate there really might be a god trove. And the lines in this ancient jade might be the map to that ancient ruin. As Soulwhite saw Lin Ming develop the idea of going to the Great Desolate, he hurriedly discouraged him. Master, with your cultivation it is far too early for you to go to the Great Desolate. That place is different from the world of the hunter game. The hunter game is only a trial and its difficulty is determined by your cultivation. However, the Great Desolate is different. That is the true world, where only your strength matters. I believe that Master should instead look at that rare Blue Soul level mission first. Still, a Blue Soul level mission isn't easy to complete either. There are many 2-star Asuras that form teams in order to complete Blue Soul level missions. Millimeter. Lin Ming nodded. It was true, his strength was a bit too low right now. He might as well finish the rare Blue Soul level mission first. Lin Ming took out the Blue Soul level mission badge and poured his divine sense into it. Then, a piece of information spread through his mind. Precipice Cliff, leave a name upon the Emperor Stone. This short sentence was the so-called mission. What sort of place is Precipice Cliff? Lin Ming asked. Soulwhite ruefully smiled as he heard this. He said, what a coincidence. Precipice Cliff is also at the Great Desolate, but it is located at the edges. It isn't too dangerous there. Oh. So it seems no matter what, I'll need to take a trip to the Great Desolate. Is this Emperor Stone located on this Precipice Cliff? The aim of this mission was clearly to have Lin Ming go to the Great Desolate and leave his name upon the Emperor Stone. At the very least he had to leave some sort of symbol. Lin Ming guessed that this Emperor Stone likely had some sort of array formation. Once this array formation came into contact with his mission badge, the mission badge would turn into a god rune, the rare Blue Soul level god rune he would obtain from this mission. After Lin Ming understood the mission details, he spent several days in his cave dwelling adjusting himself. After he reached his best state, he left. Destination, the Great Desolate. Chapter 1447, Encounter in the Great Desolate. Chapter 1447, Encounter in the Great Desolate. Azura Road, the Great Desolate. No one knew just where the Great Desolate ended. It was said that the deeper one went into the Great Desolate, the more strange and fantastical phenomena one would see. Moreover, the space and time there was extremely disorderly, and even Empyreans that were skilled in the space and time laws could easily become lost in the space labyrinths. It was said that the Great Desolate eventually led to another unknown space, perhaps a world that was no longer a part of the Azura Road. In short, the depths of the Great Desolate were a forbidden zone. Currently, Lin Ming was only at the very outermost edges of the Great Desolate. He was still incomparably far from reaching anywhere near the center. This land was named the Great Desolate, but it wasn't desolate at all. Instead, there were mountains that towered for hundreds of thousands of feet with ancient, high trees that reached into the skies. Their roots gripped the earth like dragon claws, and within these primal groves, all sorts of vicious beasts flitted about. The reason that the Great Desolate was called the Great Desolate was that whoever stepped into that land, no matter who they were, would feel an ancient and prehistoric breath overwhelm them. It was said that the terrain of the land had remained pristine and unchanged for the last 10 billion years. Every inch of that land had experienced endless years. This also caused Lin Ming to feel a deep sense of respect towards this land in his heart. Rumble, rumble, rumble. A magnificent river surged in front of Lin Ming. The waters were turbulent and wild, as wide as a sea, seeming to contain an infinite strength. Soulwhite said, "Master, this river is called the Desolate Springs and it runs through the Great Desolate. When a martial artist wants to enter the Great Desolate, they usually follow the path of this river forwards. If we follow this river, it will be a bit more secure, and we will also arrive at Precipice Cliff." Millimeter, all right. Lin Ming nodded. It really was a wise decision for him to bring Soulwhite under his control. It saved him a great deal of trouble. As Lin Ming wanted to go forwards, the clarion cry of a bird rang through the skies, alarming many vicious beasts hiding in the grass. Lin Ming saw a massive bird as large as a hill soar through the heavens, its wings blocking out most of the sun. This scene left Lin Ming secretly dumbfounded. This bird was several miles long. Although it was far smaller than a golden-winged rock, it was still on a completely different level from other birds. Bang! Crash! The giant bird landed atop a cliff. Lin Ming silently revolved the divine dream law, shielding his own figure as much as possible to avoid being spotted by the giant bird. In this Great Desolate, he had to remain absolutely vigilant. Otherwise, it would be easier for him to encounter some existence that he couldn't afford to provoke. If he did that, then escaping would be an impossible hope. Soulwhite said, "Master, we are only about 1,000 miles away from Precipice Cliff. We should be a bit more careful when we follow the Desolate Springs and we won't encounter any dangers. The vicious beasts around the Desolate Springs have low striking power. As long as they are not provoked, they won't attack others. Once we reach Precipice Cliff, then Master can leave a name upon the Emperor Stone and complete the mission." "I understand." Lin Ming nodded. As they walked forwards, they actually encountered a fair number of martial artists. These people were doing as Soulwhite had said and were walking alongside the river. This was the safest entryway into the Great Desolate. Out of the many martial artists, there were those at the Divine Sea, Divine Transformation, and Divine Lord realms. They either came to the Great Desolate to adventure or to complete some sort of mission. Of course, the missions they were given might not be to go to Precipice Cliff. During this time period, Lin Ming saw massive slaughterfests take place around him as well as some squads picking up the bones of rare beasts. These were not the bones of god beasts, but some ancient desolate beasts that had a faint bloodline connection to god beasts. These bones had existed here for far too long and the marrow had already drained away, leaving nothing behind but bones. In Lin Ming's eyes, these ancient desolate beast bones were extremely wonderful treasures. Even so, they were much worse than the azure dragon bone he had found before. However, these sorts of beast bones still caused dozens and hundreds of people to kill each other in a struggle to obtain them. Finally, over half these people died, leaving pools of blood to drench the earth. The final strongest powerhouse carried off the beast bones even as he was severely wounded. As Lin Ming was watching this, he noticed that it was likely this powerhouse had received grievous hidden wounds that would be difficult to recover from. In fact, this powerhouse had also burnt 20 to 30% of his blood essence. If he wanted to restore just that, then he would have to pay an extremely deep price. This place is really filled with the scent of blood. In the Azura Road, strength is king. Fighting and killing over treasures is far too common. Even if you don't fight, others will fight you all the same. Lin Ming sighed. These common martial artists or martial artists from small influences lacked far too many resources. Their only recourse to advance in their road of martial arts was to desperately struggle with their lives on the line. "Hey, brat, have you been here all along? Have you seen any beast bones? Did you see who they were taken by? Where did that person go?" Lin Ming didn't jump into the struggle for beast bones. Even so, trouble came knocking on his door regardless. Lin Ming turned around to see several saint and imp race martial artists approaching him. They were backup called in by their comrades, but while they had been catching up, their comrades had all been killed. They didn't feel anything towards their comrades' death. Rather, what they were concerned about was the whereabouts of the beast bones. "I have no idea." Lin Ming shook his head. He didn't bother telling these people which direction the severely wounded martial artist had run off in with the beast bones. "Heh, don't try to lie to me. Let me search your soul a bit. If what you say is true, then I won't kill you." Out of the small group, an old imp man spoke as he licked his lips, chuckling as he reached out a hand towards Lin Ming. He simply didn't believe Lin Ming's words. If Lin Ming were here, why wouldn't he have seen who took the beast bones? Lin Ming frowned. This imp wanted to search his soul and said it in such a calm and casual manner, as if he were asking for directions. He didn't want to kill anyone here, but some people actually came seeking their own death. The old imp laughed as he saw Lin Ming was resisting. "Haha, brat, I already know you are lying. You might be the friend of whoever took away the beast bones, or perhaps the bones are on your body." The old imp stretched out his skinny chicken claw-like hand to grasp Lin Ming. A thick killing intent flashed in Lin Ming's eyes. In the next moment, a red and purple light flashed out, slicing through the void. The old imp suddenly shook, his entire body shivering. His stretched out hand also froze where it was as his fingers trembled. He looked down with disbelief etched in his eyes. There was a massive bloody hole in his chest. You. Damn it, kill him." The other martial artists around the old imp were all enraged. Fight together, this boy isn't simple at all. They never thought that Lin Ming would sneak attack in such a manner just now, nor did they recognize his true strength. "Come then, all of you can die together." Lin Ming waved the phoenix blood spear. At the same time, energy erupted from his body as the heavy grand mist energy surged outwards, blocking out the space all around here. As these people were enveloped in the grand mist space, they immediately felt a terrifying suppressive pressure pushing down on them. Let alone attacking, even breathing was becoming difficult. Wait. Some people miserably cried. However, once Lin Ming attacked, he didn't hold back at all. The phoenix blood spear swept out with a thick arc of spear light. In just several blinks of the eye, all of these people were killed by Lin Ming. Blood splashed everywhere. Lin Ming wiped off the blood from the phoenix blood spear and shook his head. They kill others like cutting grass. These Azura Road people are really mentally insane. As Lin Ming was speaking out loud, he heard the faint explosions of energy just several dozen miles away. It was clear some people had started to fight. "I'll go around them." Lin Ming didn't want to be caught up in any more troublesome matters. If there was some battle taking place on the road, then he would just circle around them. However, after 10 miles, he stopped his footsteps. The fighting taking place in the distance was actually quite unusual. From the wild and heated origin energy in the air, he could feel that the two sides fighting were all masters, completely incomparable to the trash he just killed. Who is fighting? These swift and fierce energy collisions, this is definitely a battle between extraordinary individuals. Moreover, how could these sounds? Lin Ming's hearing was extremely sharp. Even from such a distance, he could hear what sounds were coming from that chaotic battlefield. As he heard a familiar sound, an astonished light flashed in his eyes. "I guess I'll go take a look." As Lin Ming spoke, he rapidly rushed towards the battlefield. The 20 to 30 mile distance took only several blinks of time. At this time, he heard someone shout out, "Wings of the Dark Phoenix." For a time, the aura of a god beast shot up into the skies. Lin Ming was extremely familiar with this aura. 10 years ago, within the arena of the Divine Realm First Martial Meeting, he had fought against this aura. Wings of the Dark Phoenix, a god beast's aura, is it Xiao Moxian? She, also came to the Azura Road? Just who is she fighting? Chapter 1448, The Phoenix Within the Flames of Battle. Chapter 1448, The Phoenix Within the Flames of Battle. Lin Ming was extremely startled to discover that Xiao Moxian was one of the people fighting. But as he thought about it further, it wasn't strange at all. With the great calamity ready to erupt at any moment, Xiao Moxian would also want to rapidly increase her strength, but in the divine realm alone, it would be hard for her to find sufficient space to grow. She needed rivals and opponents, she needed a new world to broaden her horizons, and she needed pressure that would force her to transform into someone greater than she was before. The Azura Road was indeed a very good place to go. Then, after arriving here, Xiao Moxian had at some time obtained a mission to go to the Great Desolate. And, her appearing here was also reasonable, because the Desolate Springs was the safest entry route into the Great Desolate. As Lin Ming thought of this, he sped up. He could clearly see the phantom of a dark phoenix in the distant skies. Lin Ming had fought with Xiao Moxian before, so he clearly understood that this was her bloodline strength, the phoenix true form. Unless she encountered some formidable opponent, Xiao Moxian wouldn't easily reveal this ability in the Azura Road. It was similar to an elephant revealing its ivory tusks or a rhinoceros revealing its horn, it would arouse the greed of others. Lin Ming's guess was correct. Xiao Moxian was indeed placed in a great crisis. The cause was simple. After Xiao Moxian entered the Azura Road, the first place she stopped was Wave City. After entering Wave City, she went to the mission-issuing area, similar to the City of Discord's Black God Fort, and then she also participated in the trial game there. With Xiao Moxian's talent, obtaining the 50-badge Blue Soul level reward was far too simple, and even obtaining the Zenith Black level reward wasn't difficult at all. After Xiao Moxian had 2 drawings, although she didn't draw the Destiny reward that Lin Ming had drawn, she had still pulled out the second Zenith Black reward possibility, and the best one at that. If she drew that, the value of the God rune would only be slightly worse than the Destiny reward. This would be enough to cause all the martial artists in Wave City to go crazy with greed. In addition, her Blue Soul level reward was likely the most precious third possibility type too. When these factors were added together, the result could be imagined. Xiao Moxian was now besieged from all sides. Fires scorching the starry skies. Hoo. Black flames swept up a storm. Xiao Moxian wielded her swift long whip, the speed reaching unimaginable degrees as if she would tear apart space itself. Flames burnt along the whip's length. Every time the whip lashed out, martial artists would be torn apart, leaving behind nothing but bloody fog. Corpses were already piled up all around her. These corpses were either torn apart by long whip strokes or charred into cinders. As for Xiao Moxian, her long hair was scattered about and blood stained her face. Her large pitch-black eyes were filled with a cruel and ruthless light. Although she normally seemed naughty and cute, she actually had the blood of the monster and demon races flowing through her veins. When it came to killing someone, she could instantly become a dark enchantress, showing no mercy at all. She had already been fighting for a long time, and dozens of people had been killed by her. The rocks all around were dyed black and red, and all the surrounding plant life had withered away. There were many wounds crisscrossing her body, and even her expansive dark phoenix wings were wet with blood. This blood was hers. The battlefield was already thick with the scent of blood and death. Xiao Moxian was like a dark angel, her body brimming with a terrifying power as she harvested all life around her. I'm sure that she must have a true phoenix bloodline within her. She might even be the descendant of a phoenix. In the group of people, a Holy Lord martial artist suddenly shouted out. He clearly had a considerable amount of experience. In the midst of this intense battle, he had been able to see through Xiao Moxian's bloodline, a phoenix body. How could a descendant be born from a phoenix mating with other races? If so, then us brothers have really hit the jackpot. Just a single drop of her blood essence is incomparably precious. If we can capture this woman and dual cultivate with her, we can suck up her yin essence and even swallow her primal origin energy. We can even use her blood to make medicine to obtain unimaginable benefit. Ha ha ha. Use her for medicine? That ruins the fun too much. This is truly a top-quality woman, the most outstanding kind of all, so how can we use her as medicine? We should enjoy her as thoroughly as we can. When we capture her we can plant a slave seal within her and make her serve us faithfully. Hehe, little girl, don't resist us. We have enough people that you will be captured sooner or later. No matter what you try, we will place a slave seal rune within you and enjoy your body, ha ha ha. The leading martial artists increased their violent barrage of attacks. These people all had a Holy Lord level cultivations for a total of 4 Holy Lord. Although they weren't strong Holy Lords, several of them added together formed a terrifying strength. It would be almost impossible for Xiao Moxian to escape the siege of these people, and even someone like Lin Ming would find it difficult. Xiao Moxian formed more seals as she wrapped her body in black flames. Mystical runes began to shine over her face, neck, and arms. These runes were the law runes of a dark phoenix that were inscribed into her body. They were the miracle of laws that she inherited from her mother, the symbol of a god beast. These runes shimmered with a brilliant black light. The power of laws began to crazily surge around Lin Ming. Black flames soared to the heavens, sweeping across the skies. Don't struggle, little girl, it is useless for you to delay for time. Do you really think that that old man will be here to rescue you? Perhaps he already died at Wave City, or at the very least he was mutually wounded together with Wave City's City Lord, otherwise how would the 4 of us be able to enjoy such a lucky chance? Here! The 4 Holy Lords spread out, attacking Xiao Moxian from afar. Bang! Flames crazily detonated. Several martial artists that attacked Xiao Moxian were turned to ash, but the 4 leading Holy Lord powerhouses actually retreated. One of them even casually grasped a minion beside them to use as a shield. That unlucky martial artist was directly burned down to nothing, but the Holy Lord powerhouse behind him was completely fine. The ones sieging you are all our slaves controlled by god runes. Don't you know that there are god runes that can specifically act as slave seals for others? If you burn them, that isn't any loss to us at all. In fact, you will have needlessly wasted your strength, ha ha ha. This Holy Lord was from the demon race. He was short, with pointy ears and nearly black skin. At this time he was fiendishly smiling as his eyes greedily swept over Xiao Moxian's body. In truth, they also knew that Xiao Moxian was extremely strong. If they were to truly attack in a head-on fight, then no single one of them alone was Xiao Moxian's match. Even if they joined forces, Xiao Moxian could still counterattack and kill off 1 or 2 of them. Thus, they used the many slaves under their control to wear down her strength. This was the safest and most methodical tactic. Xiao Moxian's eyes shined with a cold light. Although she possessed a nearly unparalleled physique, she had indeed consumed far too much energy and was nearing her limit. Her inky black eyes narrowed as she glared at the demon Holy Lord who had just spoken. Killing intent rose from all around her. You are courting death. Bang! At this moment, a volcano seemed to erupt within Xiao Moxian. Her strength rapidly ascended as her aura violently gushed out, causing the earth to shake. In that instant, it was like a true phoenix was awakening within Xiao Moxian. This is the demon Holy Lord that was speaking before suddenly paused. He felt the space around him tighten as a terrifying strength swept at his direction. Xiao Moxian had ignored all others to attack him. Her only goal was to wipe out the Holy Lord who had shouted just now. Old Fourth, be careful. Not too far away, 2 of the other 4 wave saints also moved to help him. As for the last one, he attacked Xiao Moxian. He was too far away, so he didn't have enough time to help his comrade, thus he thought of attacking Xiao Moxian to force her to retreat. Xiao Moxian realized that there was an attack coming at her from behind, and she also realized the consequences of being struck. But she ignored it, stubbornly attacking as she did before. Her long whip howled as dreadful black flames formed a raging inferno that smashed into the demon Holy Lord's body. The demon Holy Lord cried out miserably as half his body was struck. Many of his organs broke, his meridians cracked, and he vomited out a mouthful of blood. How is this possible? He found this all unbelievable. How could Xiao Moxian suddenly erupt with such a titanic strength? She has burnt her bloodline, the bloodline of a dark phoenix. The Holy Lord behind Xiao Moxian shouted out as he attacked her. His saber came roughly chopping down upon her back. Xiao Moxian had spent all of her strength and attention to strike that demon race holy lord, so she had no time to turn around and defend. Instead, she wrapped her wings around her body, revolving all of her strength to resist this saber strike. Ca. A saber slashed through Xiao Moxian's protective true essence and cut down at her phoenix wings. Blood splashed out and her face paled. Her body was sent flying backwards until she crashed into a cluster of rocks. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Rocks shattered and Xiao Moxian was buried within the debris. But in the next moment, a massive amount of broken stone was swept away by her black phoenix wings. Xiao Moxian stood up, but as she did, she revealed that only one of her phoenix wings was upright, the other wing was hanging at a strange angle. That saber strike just then had cut through her wing bones. In addition, there was also a 3-foot-long wound. It was unknown just how deep it was, but it had already injured her organs. If she didn't possess a phoenix's body, then she would have already lost all combat strength. Old Fourth, are you okay? Two of the Holy Lords caught the demon race Holy Lord. Although half his body was ruined, he still had a single breath of life. In that life or death moment just now, the other two Holy Lords had been able to bear a part of Xiao Moxian's attack, saving his life. This damned girl. The boss of the Four-Wave Saints shouted out, his eyes shining with a ruthlessly sharp light. She has burnt her phoenix blood. A phoenix god beast was the only creature in the universe that could freely burn its blood essence without diminishing its fires of life. This was because they could rebirth themselves within the flames of nirvana. However, this also had a premise, and it was that a phoenix that combusted its blood essence had to have completed at least a single nirvana, otherwise it was difficult to do so. Currently, Xiao Moxian had yet to undergo her nirvana, thus she could burn her ancient phoenix blood at most only once. If she did it any more, then she would damage her life force, just like an ordinary martial artist burning their blood essence. Let's attack together, she is already exhausted. Right, no one hold back. We can't have this little girl pulling out some trump card like what she did to Old Fourth. We'll steal away the treasure she drew, keep her lowly life and plant a slave seal in her and then train her well, the Four-Wave Saints said, their eyes glimmering with greed and perversion. Among the four of them, the three that still had their battle efficiency stood up. Their strength began to echo between each other before it suddenly burst outward. Hoo. Energy gushed out. These people all came from the demon race or the saint race, and their different strengths converged together to form an array diagram. Within this array diagram, the phantom of a giant sea monster began to emerge. This sea monster was massive, with dozens of tentacles, resembling something like a massive octopus. Attack! The three of them all attacked with their sabers. As their sabers came slashing down, Xiao Moxian glared at them, her eyes cold and implacable. At this time it was no longer possible for her to burn her ancient phoenix blood any further. Even burning a little of her blood just now had placed a tremendous burden on her body. Even in this completely exhausted state where she was like a flickering candle in the wind, she still slashed out with her whip at the three sabers. At the same time, she took out a jade slip from her spatial ring and poured her true essence into it before crumbling it. This was a defensive-type jade slip. Although it was very valuable, it was impossible for this alone to defend against the joint attack of the three Holy Lords. At most it would reduce the wounds that she received. Accept your fate. The three Holy Lords cruelly cackled, their speed increasing until they were like three meteors that hurtled towards Xiao Moxian. The array diagram appeared above their sabers and the giant sea monster behind them savagely roared as it sent several tentacles thrusting towards Xiao Moxian. In that moment, the earth suddenly shook and space was torn apart. The mountain stones tumbled down in an avalanche as the power of space groaned in the air. Millimeter. The three Holy Lords didn't even have time to respond. They saw Xiao Moxian disappear from their sight, replaced by a thick ancient stone gate that fell down from the clouds, separating them from her. What is this? Cut it down. The three Holy Lords were extremely fast. Their attacks didn't slow down in the least as they slashed out at the stone gate. In fact, it was impossible for them to slow down, just like someone that was racing suddenly coming to a complete stop. If they did so, then the energy and momentum in their attack would create a backlash against them and injure them instead. The array diagram upon their sabers shined even brighter. The octopus-like sea monster roared out and slammed its tentacles at the stone gate. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Energy exploded. All of the attacks fell down on the stone gate. Wild shockwaves spread outwards, causing all the nearby stones to disintegrate. The sea monster phantom that bore the brunt of this impact was torn apart. As for that heavy stone gate, it merely shook a little without showing any signs of damage. After that, the array diagram atop the three holy lords' sabers also cracked apart. Because they were too fast, all of them crashed into the stone gate. For a time, they were completely knocked senseless. Puff! The boss of the four-wave saints spat out a mouthful of blood. Although he hadn't been attacked just now, he had taken a rebound injury. This was like a person punching at a stone wall with all their strength. Although the wall would be fine, their hand would be injured. What happened? This sudden change in events left the Holy Lords all perplexed and startled. The Holy Lord boss suddenly looked up in the sky to see a youth wrapped in a black cape. This youth held a long spear. His build was ordinary, as was his appearance. His face was a bit yellow, making him seem like someone that would never be noticed in a crowd. Without a doubt, the stone gate that came down just now had come from this person. Chapter 1449, Fighting the Four Saints. Chapter 1449, Fighting the Four Saints. Who are you? The four-wave saints' expressions changed as they saw this common-looking youth appear in front of them. He seemed quite young, but his first move was to put forth such a strange magic tool. It was unknown just what this magic tool was forged from, but its defensive power was unmatched and unshakable. Just by looking at it, one could tell it was an extremely precious treasure. Normally, they would have had thoughts of stealing it away, but if they were to fight now, they would have to fight both Xiao Moxian and this strange youth together. That was a completely unwise decision. He is a human. Moreover, he is at a divine transformation realm cultivation. It doesn't seem like he is that girl's companion, so he shouldn't know what treasure she has on her. No one should know our whereabouts either. One of the four-wave saints said. When Xiao Moxian had escaped Wave City, she had undergone a void shift and escaped. Luckily, one of them had a rare tracking rune that was able to lock onto her position from afar. There was an extremely small number of these tracking runes. Although it wasn't just them who possessed one, the four-wave saints were sure that when Xiao Moxian escaped, there were no surrounding martial artists that had one on them. As the wave boss looked at Xiao Moxian, he could tell from her expression that she didn't know just who this other person was. As long as they weren't companions, then everything would be much easier. Don't look down on him just because it seems he has a divine transformation realm cultivation. He could be using some sort of secret method to hide his cultivation. After all, he is definitely not a fool, and no one would attack someone clearly stronger than they are. The four-wave saints didn't lower their guard because their enemy had a mere divine transformation realm cultivation. The black-caped youth grasped his long spear and slowly floated down between the four-tide saints and Xiao Moxian. This youth was naturally Lin Ming. After Lin Ming changed his appearance, not only did his looks become plain and ordinary, but even his soul aura had been altered. Not even Xiao Moxian could see who he was. Friend, I advise you to not meddle in the business of others. In this Azura Road, we rule by the law of the jungle and the strong eat the weak. Those who can't mind their own affairs are likely to die. If you leave now, then we might give you some benefits before we send you on your way, but if you insist on sticking yourself into this situation, then don't blame us four-wave saints for being rude. The wave boss warned Lin Ming. Four-wave saints. Lin Ming's eyebrows arched upwards. It seemed that the martial artists of the Azura Road really preferred to form teams and give themselves some silly name. The Black Iron Ghost triad he met before was also the same. Lin Ming glanced over at Xiao Moxian. As he arrived, he saw Xiao Moxian burn her ancient phoenix blood to nearly kill one of the four-wave saints. It had to be known that the four-wave saints were all holy lords. Their cultivation could not be compared to that of the Black Iron Ghost triad. If the four of them joined together, their strength would rise even further. Even so, Xiao Moxian had been able to persist for such a long time and nearly kill one of them. The corpses that littered the ground all around were an alarming scene. These massive numbers of divine transformation and divine Lord Realm martial artists were all slain by Xiao Moxian. Their lives had been cut down with single strokes, their blood dyeing the stone and earth red. This strength was absolutely bewildering. This is incredible, perhaps even that Imperial Prince Naki isn't any more talented than Xiao Moxian, but Xiao Moxian is also far younger than he is. A divine body seen only once every billion years is indeed extraordinary. Lin Ming was flabbergasted. In the Great Calamity, Xiao Moxian was sure to be a strong heroine who played a leading role. Who are you? Have we met before? Xiao Moxian's true essence sound transmission echoed in Lin Ming's ear. She didn't recognize the Primordius Gate, nor did she see through his changed appearance. There is no point in bothering with who I am. Let's speak after we finish off these fools. Lin Ming's voice had also changed, becoming thin and hoarse, not appealing to listen to at all. Xiao Moxian grinned as she heard Lin Ming, revealing a pair of cute sharp fangs. However, these fangs were stained red with blood, giving off a sad and mournful beauty. Great! Xiao Moxian raised her long whip. At this time, she was still able to laugh. Even though she was like an oilless lamp just now, she had been able to restore some of her origin energy in this short period of time. It could only be said that a god-beast body was far too formidable. Friend, it seems you want to die no matter what. The four-wave saints could sense that Lin Ming wasn't ordinary at all, but at this time it was too late for them to give up on their goal. They surrounded Lin Ming, but Lin Ming took this time to attack. As soon as he struck out, he did so with all his strength. His opponents were holy lords, and although they were weak holy lords, the three of them added together couldn't be underestimated. Bang! The Primordius Gate was sent hurtling forwards by Lin Ming once more. Its momentum was broad and glorious, like an endless avalanche. It's this stone gate again, the four-wave saints grimaced. Don't try to defend against it. Spread out and attack him, the wave boss said with a sound transmission. His entire body erupted with astral essence and he rushed forwards like a slippery eel, circumventing the Primordius Gate to attack Lin Ming himself. After all, he was still a holy lord powerhouse. When his saber slashed out, combined with his great mortal bodily strength, the saber wind was incomparably fierce and sharp. This saber strike could even shear a mountain in half. However, even though the wave boss was fast, Lin Ming was even faster. Lin Ming's figure flickered as he revolved the space and time laws, instantly shooting off towards the third wave brother. The Phoenix blood spear thrust out and the power of thunder and fire heavenly tribulation twisted together atop the shaft. Heavenly Tao judgment. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Red and purple spear light surged, shrouding down towards the third brother with overwhelming momentum, blocking off all possible paths of escape. As Xiao Moxian saw this, her eyes widened. A move that controlled the power of thunder and fire? This move seemed somewhat similar to that one fellow's techniques. As Xiao Moxian thought of this, she didn't hold back either. The long whip in her hand slashed out like a viper towards the second wave brother. Her physical state was very poor right now, so she couldn't engage them in frontal combat, but to use some long-ranged attacks to siphon off the attention of one or two of them was possible. What fascinating strength! But what a pity, you still can't do anything to me. The third wave brother that was being covered by heavenly Tao judgment took out a green ruler from his spatial ring. This ruler immediately grew to 10 feet long before he brought it pounding down, wanting to smash apart the power of heavenly tribulation. But at this moment, from all around Lin Ming, a horrifying atmosphere spread outwards. This atmosphere was boundless and ancient, containing an incomparably suppressive feeling. Grand mist space. Who? Star-heavy grand mist energy wrapped around the green ruler, instantly slowing it down. The potential within the attack also diminished rapidly. Millimeter. The third wave brother was shocked. This sudden change left him panicked. Be careful. The wave boss shouted. He wanted to move to help the third wave brother, but it was too late. With a loud rumbling explosion, the third wave brother was struck by the power of thunder and fire heavenly tribulation. He soared backwards, his chest covered with red as he spat out great mouthfuls of blood. His mortal body was powerful enough that he didn't receive a fatal wound, but his combat strength dropped precipitously. Behind Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian was watching all of this occur. She wasn't placed within the Grand Mist space, so she didn't feel the suppressive aura directly, but she could still vaguely feel the aura of the Grand Mist Great Tao. This person is also skilled in the Grand Mist laws. Chapter 1450. This place shall be your grave. Chapter 1450. This place shall be your grave. In Xiao Moxian's mind, the figure of Lin Ming inevitably appeared. Whether it was the power of thunder and fire or the Grand Mist laws, those were all abilities utilized by Lin Ming. This was especially true for the Grand Mist laws. Very few people understood them. If one wished to learn them, they would need an abnormally high perception in order to perceive the Grand Mist laws from Chaos Stones. After all, in this universe Grand Mist energy had nearly disappeared. Even so, Xiao Moxian couldn't confirm that this youth in front of her was Lin Ming based on those abilities alone. In the end, this was the Azura Road and not the Divine Realm. Xiao Moxian didn't know that Lin Ming had come to the Azura Road, and that Divine Dream, in order to protect Lin Ming, had kept his whereabouts an absolute secret. In addition, there were countless martial artists from the various universes here that studied every law possible, so someone appearing that was similar to Lin Ming could occur. Lin Ming's attacks became increasingly ruthless. He revolved his strength to the limit with every move, each move bearing down more and each move aiming to take a life. He was even stronger than Xiao Moxian. By himself in a 1-against-3 situation, he managed to suppress the 3-wave saint. In terms of striking power, the 4-wave saints were powerful, and if they were to fight 3 against 1, they shouldn't have been placed in such a disadvantageous position. However, Lin Ming had the Primordius Gate withstanding attacks for him. The Primordius Gate was like an indestructible aegis. No matter how wild or brutal the attacks were, the impact would only cause a slight tremble. Let's break through this gate first. The wave boss shouted out with a true essence sound transmission. How do we break it? Even a world king wouldn't be able to do anything to it. This stone gate must be an Empyrean spirit treasure, another one of the wave saints said. Out of the 3 of them still standing, their 3rd wave brother had already been severely wounded by Lin Ming's heavenly Tao judgment. Even speaking caused him to vomit blood. That's right. It is because it is an Empyrean spirit treasure that this boy shouldn't have been able to completely refine it. According to common sense, it should also be impossible for him to move this stone gate. It must be because this stone gate has a spirit of its own that is allowing the boy to control it. Even so, without the absolute control of a martial artist, this stone gate is in the end nothing but a lifeless object. As long as we can overcome this stone gate, then we will win, the wave boss said. Then, he suddenly pulled out a black ghost banner and tossed it into the skies. This ghost banner rose up with the wind, drawing demonic words in the air. Woo, woo, woo. Sad and shrill cries echoed out from the ghost banner. All sorts of resentful spirits began to stream out it. These spirits were personally killed by the wave boss and enslaved by him before being sealed into the ghost banner. Once they were taken out, their pained resentment soared to the heavens. These resentful spirits gushed out like a tide. They didn't attack Lin Ming but instead rushed towards the Primordius Gate. Millimeter? Lin Ming's eyebrows shot up. This sort of tactic was a bit surprising. Who? A massive number of tortured spirits screamed out, hurtling towards the stone gate without a care for their existence. The Primordius Gate contained the aura of the Grand Mist laws. Once these spirits rushed towards it, they would be torn apart by the Grand Mist laws. However, they continued on no matter the cost, tens and hundreds of thousands of them wrapping around the Primordius Gate. As the wave boss saw the resentful spirits he refined perishing in droves, he felt his heart drip with blood. But at this time, he didn't have the luxury to care about it anymore. As long as he killed this youth, he could obtain his treasures. Moreover, he would be able to obtain that charming young woman and her Zenith Black level reward. This was a great temptation. With these treasures he could leap up to the heavens in a single bound. Take this opportunity to attack him, the wave saints shouted out loud. Runes began to shimmer all over their bodies. These were the god runes unique to the Azura Road. The god runes of the Azura Road, besides the special functions they had, could greatly increase a martial artist's strength every time a complete set was gathered. Master, be careful. These people have gathered 3 sets of gold runes and half a set of blue soul runes. They are considered the highest peak 2-star asuras and can enjoy the blessings of heightened strength from the Azura Road. Soul White warned from within Lin Ming's spatial ring. Lin Ming's eyebrows arched up. This situation was becoming somewhat tricky. These wave saints were originally skilled to begin with, and now with the god runes increasing their strength they would become even more difficult to deal with. It wasn't a problem for Lin Ming to fight a weak Holy Lord, but now there were 3 of them, all stronger than average. If Lin Ming wanted to kill them all off, then that would be difficult. After all, as long as they separated and escaped, then there wouldn't be anything that he could do. If he couldn't eliminate them all here, then they would reveal Xiao Moxian's location, bringing about even greater troubles. Dealing with several weak Holy Lords was already Lin Ming's limit. If he had to deal with a world king, then there was no chance for him to win. Moreover, because those resentful spirits had wrapped themselves around the Primordius Gate, it would be hard for him to move it for some time. This was the weakness of him being unable to completely refine the Primordius Gate. Because of that, he was only able to treat the Primordius Gate as a shield and not as the immeasurably powerful Empyrean spirit treasure that it was. Otherwise, if Lin Ming had fully refined it, then he would have been able to erupt the energy contained within with just a thought and cause all those hateful spirits to disintegrate instantly. Master, you also have god runes. Although they aren't complete, they are still Zenith Black level runes. If you summon their power within your body with an arcane technique, then you can also increase your strength. Rising half a small boundary in strength shouldn't be a problem at all. Oh! Lin Ming was surprised. The 2 runes could increase his strength by half a small boundary. Lin Ming was already at the peak of the middle divine transformation realm. If he increased his cultivation by half a small boundary, then that would almost be the equivalent of entering the late divine transformation realm. The Azura Road takes god runes as manifestations of the laws, and they are things created by the Azura Road Master. The Zenith Black runes that Master obtained are extremely rare. Using them to rise half a small boundary shouldn't be a problem at all. As Soul White spoke, Lin Ming had already started pouring his true essence into the god runes. For a time, from between his eyebrows and on his right hand, faint red-black runes began to shine. Black and red were the colors of Zenith Black runes. As the wave saints saw Lin Ming's body began to radiate a black and red light, they were shocked. This is Zenith Black runes? How is that possible? Zenith Black runes were normally something that only City Lord level characters possessed. Moreover, the Zenith Black runes they had were usually of a lower realm. But, the 2 Zenith Black runes shining on Lin Ming's body both blazed with a divine light, emitting an extraordinary and terrifying aura. Behind Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian also saw the bright shimmer of these Zenith Black runes. She had already been at the Azura Road for long enough that she understood what this red and black light meant. Who is he? Xiao Moxian's large eyes widened until they were like brilliant black gems. She couldn't stop looking at Lin Ming as she took an increasing interest towards him. She really wanted to know what the answers to her questions were, but she didn't ask. Xiao Moxian had a childlike innocence and naivete. The more she wanted to know something, the less she would ask about it. Instead, she would investigate herself. Only then was it fun. This brat. The wave saints felt the situation become increasingly messy. This boy was so young and yet he possessed Zenith Black level runes. They suspected that Lin Ming had an unfathomably deep background. However, they had already tossed their lives into the ring and it was impossible for them to retreat. The greater background a person had, the more ruthless they had to be in utterly exterminating them. They didn't even think that Lin Ming would ever let them go. Attack together. We must kill him. The wave saints drew out their sabers and attacked. 3 sabers gathered as one, their strength instantly increasing by several times. They joined together the power from the god runes as they attacked Lin Ming. This was their strongest attack. Line of the Deep Sea. A terrifying power erupted, rushing forth like a raging tsunami. From behind the wave saints, the sea monster phantom that attacked Xiao Moxian appeared once more, hurtling towards Lin Ming. Master, be careful. Soul White cried out in alarm. Although Lin Ming was talented, his cultivation was simply too low. If he had to resist the strongest attack of these wave saints that were 2 large boundaries higher in cultivation than he was, then that was simply a crazy decision. Xiao Moxian was also worried for Lin Ming. Without caring for the exhaustion that racked her body, she slashed out her whip, hoping to reduce the pressure on him. As for Lin Minute-Ming, he remained calm and unhurried. His soul force reached into his inner world and a dark grey light howled out. Your tactics were good, but unfortunately, I have more than this stone gate. As Lin Ming spoke, there was a loud metallic ring, a gong that originated from the most primeval era, bringing with it the endless breath of the great Tao laws. A heavy and ancient bell suddenly fell down from up high, covering Lin Ming within it. This ancient bell exuded a vast and boundless aura. The surface of the bell was carved with images of flowers and creatures, phoenixes and dragons, leviathans and rocks, and even Tao patterns similar to those of chaos stones. This was the Primordius Bell, another one of the Empyrean spirit treasures that Empyrean Primordius had left behind for Lin Ming. When Lin Ming first entered Primordius Palace, he had knelt in front of this ancient bell for 3 years, fully perceiving the highest truths of the great Tao contained within, using this bell to directly refine the Primordius martial intent. The attacks of the wave saints completely fell onto the Primordius Bell. Clang! The Primordius Bell was rung by the attacks of the 3 people. A visible sound wave radiated out in response, causing space to tremble. Within this horrifying bell sound, everything was crushed. Wherever the sound wave went, the ground collapsed and mountains were destroyed. The wave saints bore the brunt of this attack. Their blood swelled up within their bodies, tumbling about, nearly causing them to fall from the skies. Their saber lights as well as that roaring sea monster had all completely exploded into bits, turning into nothing. Not only had their attacks failed against Lin Ming, but they had been struck by the sound wave of the Primordius Bell, causing them to suffer a severe wound from the backlash. What do we do? What kind of magic tool is this? A trace of blood spilled out of the wave boss mouth. With great difficulty he suppressed the roiling blood within his body. But at this time, he saw a giant bell come falling down on him from above. In the next moment, they were all covered inside of that ancient bell. This is bad. The wave boss was bewildered. Without a doubt, this ancient bell was also an Empyrean spirit treasure. Just by attacking it, the reverberating shockwave had caused such massive damage. If someone were actually able to activate this ancient bell, then they could likely extinguish a person's body and soul, push away this bell and fly away. It's impossible for this human boy to truly control this bell. It must also be a lifeless object. As long as we don't strike it, we won't suffer a backlash. The wave boss instantly judged. As a Holy Lord level powerhouse, he had a rich depth of combat experience. But at this moment, the space in front of them distorted and a black-caped youth stepped out. Lin Ming had actually entered the space covered by the Primordius Bell. Now, within this mere 100-foot radius of space, there were 4 people. What sort of concept was 100 feet to a top master? That was the same as being face to face. None of you will leave here. This place shall be your graveyard. Lin Ming's expression was coldly indifferent as he raised the Phoenix Blood Spear. Chapter 1451, Back to the Wall. Chapter 1451, Back to the Wall. This damned brat. The wave saints were shocked. Their first thought was that this boy in front of them had gone out of his mind. 4 masters to fight within a small 100-foot radius space, that was no different from melee combat. It would be difficult to use any moves and one would barely have enough time to attack, much less defend. This was a suicidal method of fighting. Even a saint race martial artist wouldn't choose such a violent and extreme method of fighting. They would leave some space between them and their opponents so that there was a reaction buffer time. Moreover, Lin Ming was a human and humans focused on the essence gathering system. What they specialized in were long-distance attacks. Even though the wave saints saw that Lin Ming dual cultivated in body and energy, he was still nothing but a human. How could a human compare with a saint? Not just that, but within this sealed space, any explosion of energy would be increased by several times. This was a completely desperate combat tactic. "Brat, do you want to die? He's dug his own grave, let's kill him together." Just as the three Holy Lord powerhouses were about to attack, a sharp light flashed in Lin Ming's eyes. The grand mist space suddenly erupted as it flooded the entirety of the Primordius Bell. OM-. Grand mist energy spread out, bounced back again and again by the Primordius Bell, its strength constantly superimposing. In that instant, the power of Lin Ming's grand mist space increased by several times. Not just that, but the Primordius Bell forcefully condensed the grand mist space, causing the power of this force field to become far more formidable. It had to be known that when Lin Ming was in Primordius' heavenly palace perceiving the Primordius martial intent, he had done so by kneeling within the Primordius Bell and withstanding the horrifying pressure of grand mist energy. For 3 whole years, Lin Ming had withstood an immeasurable degree of pressure. And now, Lin Ming had released the grand mist space to the limit. Its power constantly increased beneath the shimmering Dao patterns of the Primordius Bell. He planned to engage the Wave Saints in a brutal battle beneath this suffocating pressure. What is this? What a terrifying pressure! The Wave Saints' complexions changed. Trapped within this space with the heavy pressure crashing down on them, they were able to display less than half their strength. "Don't let this brat take the initiative. We must forego all defense to attack and kill him." 3 sabers chopped down on Lin Ming. In an all-out attack situation, within a 100-foot radius of space, Lin Ming had nowhere to dodge. This was because those blazing saber lights had already covered all the space within the Primordius Bell. Lin Ming's tactic could be said to be fighting with his back against the wall. This was a do-or-die situation. In order to create a situation where he could display his greatest degree of strength, he had also fallen into great danger. But the advantage of this was that every escape route was cut off, including even his own. There was no one that would be able to run away from this small battlefield. Even if someone were skilled in the space laws, it would still be impossible for them to escape at such a close distance and with such a powerful force field suppressing them. In the violent combat within the Primordius Bell, only one side would emerge alive. Lin Ming had chosen this tactic in order to stop the 4 Wave Saints from escaping. Otherwise, there was no way he would be able to keep all 3 of them from fleeing. Lin Ming's eyes were grim. At this moment, a walnut-sized black sphere spun out from his inner world. This was Lin Ming's black hole seed. A black hole was the most peaceful and also most terrifying celestial body in the universe. In a radius of 100 feet, the might created by summoning this black hole seed was hard to imagine. In that moment, all of the energy within the Primordius Bell was sucked into the black hole seed. This included even the power of space and time, leaving distortions all around. With a massive gravitational force used within this small space, any movement would consume an incalculable amount of strength. When this was combined with the dreadfully heavy suppression of the Grand Mist space, the Wave Saints' 3 sabers came to a screeching halt as if they had fallen into a swamp. All of the saber light was being sucked into that black hole seed. What is this? Shit. Do you really plan on dying together? As the black hole seed appeared, the Wave Boss felt a chill shoot up his back. He instantly realized just how dangerous this move was. In this sealed space, if the force field and that black sphere were to collide with their ultimate attacks, then the resulting explosion would contain an unimaginable destructive power. Lin Ming himself would also have to withstand heavy injuries. At this time they couldn't dodge even if they wanted to. And if they didn't attack and only Lin Ming did, then they would be left in an even more miserable state. Stop. Stop. Are you insane? You want to die together with us? Lin Ming ignored all their shouts. The black hole seed he summoned shot towards the Wave Saint. Eternal darkness. As the Wave Saints saw this life-reaping black hole seed fly towards them, they all fiercely clenched their teeth and slashed out with their sabers. Their saber lights collided with eternal darkness. Bang! A horrifying explosion sounded out in that sealed space. Divine light wantonly fired off into the walls of the Primordius Bell, bouncing back and forth with an even more terrifying potential. That tyrannical shock wave along with that dangerous force field was enough to tear everything to pieces. Even a martial artist's body was no exception. Although Lin Ming had absolute confidence in his defensive abilities, Even he didn't dare to use his own body to directly withstand such an attack. Thus, the moment that Lin Ming hurtled out eternal darkness, he also summoned the Primordius Heavenly Palace from within his inner world. Primordius Heavenly Palace contained spatial array formations. It could be shrunk or enlarged and was an indestructible fortress. This was Lin Ming's own safety shelter. However, 100 feet was simply far too short a distance and the explosion was far too fast. Even though Lin Ming had summoned the Primordius Heavenly Palace when he had attacked, he was still struck by the wild shock wave as he was entering it. Peng! With a dull thump, Lin Ming felt as if he was struck in the back by a billion Jin divine hammer. All of his blood vessels, muscles, and organs seemed as if they would explode. He was sent flying forwards before smashing into a wall of Primordius Heavenly Palace. Bang! Lin Ming bounced on the ground. He felt his blood vitality tumble within his body and his vision turn dark. At the same time, the Primordius bell also shot up from the ground because of that gigantic explosion. However, the Primordius bell was far too heavy and there was also a massive amount of grand mist energy contained within, making it as heavy as a small planet. Thus, it didn't bounce too high. On the contrary, the earth beneath the Primordius bell suddenly sunk down and all of the land for several miles was blown away by the impact like a giant meteor had crashed into the ground as the shock wave spread outwards. Not too far away from the Primordius bell, Xiao Moxian was startled. She revolved her true essence to the limit and wrapped herself with her remaining wing to protect her body. Clang! A thunderous bell peal rang into the heavens. Xiao Moxian was sent flying backwards as she received a light shaking injury. The main problem was that she had been too heavily wounded from before, so she found it a bit difficult to resist this shockwave. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Mountains collapsed and rivers were forced to change course. Several surrounding mountains were flattened by this shock wave and numerous frightened people and vicious beasts were sent tumbling through the skies. The wave saint that Xiao Moxian had nearly killed before exploded into a mass of bloody fog underneath this shock wave. As Xiao Moxian saw this, she was well aware just what had happened, and she also correctly guessed how that shockwave was produced. Within the Primordius bell, Lin Ming and the remaining wave saints must have all used their finishing blows in a frigid final battle. Even in the outside, such a dreadful collision of finishing blows would cause near-fatal injuries. And within the limited space of the Primordius bell, the destructive power of that collision would be increased by several times. Even though Lin Ming dual-cultivated body and energy, and even though his defensive abilities were extremely high, if he were still sucked into that sort of explosion he would inevitably suffer a miserable fate. After all, when exchanging finishing blows like that, both parties would use at least 90% of their energy to attack, so where would they have the strength left to defend? Hey! Hey! Don't you dare die! Xiao Moxian shouted out in panic as she saw the Primordius bell still shaking. Stop scaring me. I haven't even figured out who you are. You can't die like this. I don't want to owe anyone any favors. Xiao Moxian ran over to the Primordius bell. Someone she had never met before had suddenly rescued her. If this mysterious person had even paid with his life, then Xiao Moxian would be at a loss for what to do. And at this time, within Primordius Heavenly Palace, Lin Ming was wiping the blood from the corners of his lips. He stood up and looked down at himself. His clothes and battle armor beneath it had completely broken apart. But this was only a minor problem. He waved his hand, forming new clothing with energy. He had received some minor wounds on his back that weren't too serious. This was because he hadn't been made to withstand too much of the impact, and also because the Zenith Black God rune, the protection of God, had provided him with a considerable increase to his defensive abilities. What a fearsome strike! Lin Ming flew out from Primordius Heavenly Palace. He reached out his hand and Primordius Heavenly Palace rapidly spun as it shrank before flying back into his inner world. And around Lin Ming, there was nothing but bits and pieces of flesh and blood everywhere. The wave saints couldn't be any deader than this. The explosive effects of the black hole seed in such a small and sealed-off space had surpassed Lin Ming's imagination. The wave saints had likely never imagined that this was possible. The wave boss and third wave brother were from the saint race, and their mortal bodies were tenacious enough that they left behind pieces of their bodies. But as for the Wave's second brother, he had become puddles of goo. At the middle divine transformation realm, Lin Ming had eliminated 3 holy lords. This sort of battle success would have caused even the good fortune Saint's son to drop his chin in shock. Of course, Lin Ming had been able to accomplish this mostly because of the treasures that Empyrean Primordius had left behind to him. If they had fought outside of the Primordius Bell, then even though Lin Ming would have been able to defeat them after several rounds of combat, it wouldn't have been possible for him to kill them. I wonder at what time I'll be able to kill 3 holy lords without relying on external objects or traps, and just with my strength alone. Only then will it be considered fierce enough. As Lin Ming was thinking to himself, he suddenly heard someone knocking on the Primordius Bell. "Hey you, Black Cape boy. Are you still alive in there? Don't scare me like this. Damn, how could this bell be so heavy?" Xiao Moxian poured her true essence into the Primordius Bell but found it hard to lift. This surprised her. Even though she was injured, she could still use her true essence to lift a large mountain, but now she couldn't even lift this ancient 100-foot bell. Arg! It's so heavy. Xiao Moxian finally raised up a side of the Primordius Bell. As Lin Ming saw this, he was even more startled. The Primordius Bell contained a great deal of grand mist energy within it. Even for him, he would need to expend a great deal of strength and effort if he wanted to lift the Primordius Bell without utilizing the grand mist laws. For Xiao Moxian to use brute force to accomplish this proved just how abnormally strong she was. Lin Ming stretched out a finger and poured his grand mist laws into the bell. In the next moment, the Primordius Bell floated upwards. Outside of the Primordius Bell, Xiao Moxian felt this ancient bell she was struggling to lift suddenly lighten and float upwards, leaving her surprised. Was there really someone alive inside? In this sort of situation, Xiao Moxian didn't think that the young man who rescued her would be able to survive. Even if he luckily lived through that explosion, his entire body would be drenched in blood and he would be near the point of death. Although she said that, Xiao Moxian didn't think that someone she never met before would sacrifice their life to randomly save her. If he dared to enter this bell, then he should have some method to live. Thinking of this, Xiao Moxian quickly took out life-saving pills from her spatial ring to prepare to save him. These pills even included a transcendent divine pill that was especially prepared by Empyrean Demon Dawn to save her life. However, when the Primordius Bell completely floated upwards, Xiao Moxian was shocked as she saw the scene within. There were scattered pieces of flesh and blood everywhere as well as broken bits of sabers. Standing amongst these bloody ruins was the black-caped youth. He didn't seem wounded at all and still had a calm appearance as before, as if he had been uninvolved in the vicious battle within the ancient bell. Xiao Moxian's jaw dropped, her overly large eyes becoming even rounder. You aren't injured at all?" Xiao Moxian couldn't help but admit that at this moment, Lin Ming was exuding a brave and dashing air, unfathomable like a sea, where it was impossible to tell just where the limits of his strength were. If it weren't for his yellowed skin and ordinary looks, if he were just a bit more handsome, then he could be described as a perfect young heroic elite. "Hey you, are you okay?" Xiao Moxian's 2 fingers continued to twitch. She wanted to walk up and touch Lin Ming, to see if he would strangely fall apart once he was touched. "I'm fine, but you should hurry and take some medicine. It isn't safe to be injured in this Azura Road's great desolate," Lin Ming faintly said. Xiao Moxian was sincerely convinced of this youth's tenacity. In the end, she was the one who needed medicine more. Just what sort of feed had this farm animal eaten that he grew up so fierce? Xiao Moxian undid her phoenix true form body transformation. With half a wing broken, even though she possessed a heaven-defying god-beast body, she still had to take some time to heal herself. After swallowing down some pills, Xiao Moxian sprinkled some valuable golden healing powder on her wounds. As she did this, she would occasionally glance over at Lin Ming, her eyes filling with curiosity. "Hey, you're really amazing. Do you have some sort of special physique? In that bell, what sort of technique did you use to block the impact of all that energy? Hey, are you one of those martial artists that are born in the Azura Road? I see that your cultivation is at the middle divine transformation realm. How old are you?" Xiao Moxian was like a curious child. She immediately asked many questions. When Lin Ming was in the primordial bell, he had used eternal darkness. However, because he was hidden within the bell, Xiao Moxian hadn't seen this, otherwise she would have been able to confirm his identity. Heavenly Tao Judgment, Grand Mist Laws, in addition to eternal darkness, when these three things were added together it was more than a coincidence. Lin Ming didn't even have time to respond to this barrage of questions before Xiao Moxian giggled. You remind me of this one abnormal fellow I knew before. Well, I mean that he was so strong that it was abnormal. Lin Ming wouldn't have been surprised at all if Xiao Moxian recognized who he was. Although he could change his appearance and his soul aura, he couldn't change his techniques. Then, a little bag that hung on Xiao Moxian's waist suddenly wiggled, as if there was something that was struggling to climb out. Xiao Moxian seemed to recall something. She chuckled and then opened the bag. This bag was only the size of a fist, but after it opened, a little furry ball came rolling out. Lin Ming was stunned. As he fixed his eyes on this ball, he saw that it was a little yellow dog. Its entire body was plump and round and looked extremely cute. As this little yellow dog appeared it began to whine towards Xiao Moxian several times, like the howls of a baby wolf. Big Yellow, you are being naughty again. I already said that you are too young so you can't fight yet. Be a good little boy and stay in the beast bag. Xiao Moxian said. Lin Ming was bewildered. This round yellow puppy was Xiao Moxian's contract beast. Xiao Moxian came from Demon Dawn Heavenly Palace and was a proud daughter of heaven. Just what sort of contract beast would she have? Just by looking at this big yellow in front of him, it was hard to imagine what sort of bloodline a round little puppy like this had. That's right, Big Yellow, this brother here has saved us. About that, Xiao Moxian suddenly turned to Lin Ming. You're quite fierce. The two of us should form a team together. Don't worry, I am also very fierce. I won't drag you down. Xiao Moxian sincerely said. As she spoke she unconsciously revealed the tips of her canines, making one think that she was up to no good. Form a team? Lin Ming was stunned. Forming a team was actually quite a good idea, but how would any loot be divided? Normally, one would obtain one rune or perhaps two. Collecting a full set of runes wasn't easy to begin with, much less two complete sets. At this time, Soul White had already guessed what Lin Ming was thinking. Master, it's common for martial artists to form teams in the Azura Road. The Four-Wave Saints were also the same. As Soul White spoke, Lin Ming recalled his adventure so far in the Azura Road. Indeed, he seldom saw solo martial artists. Not to mention the Four-Wave Saints, but even the roving gangs of bandits, the Black Iron Ghost Triad, or the various teams in the Great Desolate were in the same situation. Forming a team had clear advantages in the chaotic Azura Road. Whether it was combat strength or survivability, it was far superior to that of a single person. If we form a team and obtain God runes, how would we divide them? Lin Ming asked. Then, Soul White replied with an unexpected answer. Soul White said, there is an easy solution. Normally, when martial artists collect God runes it isn't to complete sets but to sell them for resources. If so, then you can divide the resources equally. For extreme geniuses like Master who are gathering complete sets of God runes to participate in the final trial, then that can also be done by several people together. Completing one set of God runes is enough because out of the many God runes, there is one called Transmission Connection that can form a complete set. There are 5 God runes in this set and it allows a person, no matter how far they are, to directly transmit themselves to another person's side. In this way, a team can continue into the final trial together. Moreover, within the Azura Road there are many missions that are far easier when done in a team. So there's something like that, Lin Ming said, a bit dumbfounded. It seemed that these God runes had many mystical and wonderful uses that he had yet to learn. During his battle with the Four-Wave Saints, Lin Ming had felt some of the benefits of having God runes. Master, don't let the runes of those Four-Wave Saints go to waste. Millimeter. Lin Ming nodded. He stepped in front of the primordial bell and put it away with a wave of his hand. Underneath the primordial bell, vague God runes were already shimmering above the ruined corpses of the Wave Saints. These God runes were mostly at the gold level. Lin Ming waved his hand and received all of them. The 4 wave saints had 3 complete sets of gold runes and half a set of blue soul runes. But these blue soul runes were the worst grade of all blue soul runes. All of these runes were taken by Lin Ming. The runes that were taken from the bodies of others could be used to participate in the final trial after they were completed, but they couldn't be used to grant himself the title of Azura. In order to become an Azura, he had to gain runes obtained from missions. Currently, Lin Ming wasn't even a 1-star Azura. In order to enter the final trial, I'll need to gather 36 complete sets of God runes. Are any of these 3 sets of gold runes part of the 36 required sets? Lin Ming asked. Soul White shook his head, saying with regret, I fear that Master will be disappointed. The 36 complete sets of God runes required to open the final trial are all extremely rare runes, but these runes are very common. Millimeter. I didn't think it would be so easy either. As Lin Ming was speaking, Xiao Moxian took out some food from her spatial ring to feed the small yellow puppy. The little yellow puppy hummed in happiness, its cries very lovable. Even so, Lin Ming could recognize that there was a great strength within this tiny dog that had yet to develop. Hey, I owe you a life, but my life is really valuable, so let's say I owe you a great favor instead. Xiao Moxian glanced over at Lin Ming. What should I call you? Lin Ming pondered for a moment. As he was considering whether it was necessary to hide his identity from Xiao Moxian, he perked up. He turned around and looked towards the distant horizon. There was a young martial artist flying towards him at breakneck speed. This youth was from the monster race. If he dared to brazenly fly in the skies above the Great Desolate, then he was either impatient enough that it was worth the risk or he had the capital to do so. Chapter 1453, Yet Another Monster Prince. Chapter 1453, Yet Another Monster Prince. Seeing this young man fly in from the distant skies, Lin Ming put down any idea of revealing his true identity. In Lin Ming's opinion, it really wasn't necessary to reveal his identity to Xiao Moxian, and towards someone unknown, he wouldn't casually reveal something vital like it. Looking at Xiao Moxian's expression, it seemed as if she knew who this monster youth was. This person also seemed to come from the divine realm. Was he Xiao Moxian's companion? Just as this thought flashed through Lin Ming's mind, his suspicions were immediately confirmed. Junior apprentice sister, I've found you. The youth fell down at a quick speed, causing a wave of dust and smoke to rise up. Junior apprentice sister, are you safe? The youth who flew here wore blue clothes, and although he wasn't too handsome, he had an extraordinary temperament. He was definitely an outstanding genius. I'm fine. Xiao Moxian's expression was lukewarm as she spoke to this senior apprentice brother of hers. This caused Lin Ming to be a bit confused. This youth should have arrived at the Azura Road with Xiao Moxian, so how come he was safe but Xiao Moxian had been besieged instead? Had they been forced to scatter because they were being chased? Is Old Blue okay? Xiao Moxian asked. The Old Blue she referred to was an old monster raceman who was responsible for acting as Xiao Moxian's guardian in this adventure through the Azura Road. That monster race old man himself had a great world king cultivation. After Xiao Moxian's incident in Wave City, the old monster raceman had fought the Wave City Lord in a brutal battle. When Xiao Moxian escaped, the two of them had still been fighting. The monster youth said, Old Blue severely wounded the Wave City Lord, but he was also injured himself. Although that Wave City Lord is weaker than Old Blue, he had many god runes and was supported by the laws of the Azura Road, so he was able to injure Old Blue too. Although Old Blue doesn't have any life-threatening injuries, he was marked with a tracking god rune by the Wave City Lord. This sort of mark can only be undone with a corresponding unbinding god rune, and that sort of god rune is extremely rare, so it will be difficult for Old Blue to find one for some time. Old Blue is safe and that Wave City Lord won't be looking for him to fight, but if he were to come here then you would also be discovered by the Wave City Lord. For the treasure you obtained, the Wave City Lord will definitely take any risk to lead his subordinates to you. The Azura Road's god runes possessed laws far beyond the control of any Empyrean. The rules they established were completely beyond the influence of a great world king powerhouse. Before this Old Blue was able to find the corresponding god rune to unbind the tracking rune on him, the Wave City Lord would be able to find out where he was. If Old Blue were to return to Xiao Moxian's side, that would instead place her in even greater danger. Oh, so it's like that. When Xiao Moxian heard that Old Blue wouldn't be around to protect her anymore, not only was she not worried, but she became even more excited. A faint hint of elation rose in her eyes. And Millimeter, according to what Old Blue said, due to security reasons, he wants us to return first. We are only at the edge of the Azura Road, so returning to the Divine Realm shouldn't be difficult at all. Once we recover, we can return here and continue adventuring. This method will be safer and will also be more prepared next time. Junior apprentice sister, what do you think? Xiao Moxian was the precious child of the monster race and demon dawn bloodline. When Old Blue came to the Azura Road, he was willing to sacrifice his life to protect Xiao Moxian. But now that he was injured and also had a tracking mark placed on him, there was no way he could continue to protect her. He was afraid that Xiao Moxian would have some accident, thus this was all he could do. I don't want to go back. Xiao Moxian devilishly smiled. That's perfect, I wanted to adventure through the Azura Road myself to begin with. What's the point of adventuring if I'm going to be monitored at every moment? Do you think I came here for vacation? For a genius to grow, they had to experience the pressure of true life or death battles. Moreover, Xiao Moxian naturally had adventurous and wild blood running through her veins. If she didn't take risks, she wouldn't be at ease. Now that she knew she could go through the Azura Road by herself, she was naturally much more excited. Junior apprentice sister, please don't speak so carelessly. Although a genius truly does need pressure to grow, you are different from those common geniuses. Your body has half of a god-beast bloodline and you are the descendant of a true god-beast. Even if you only ate and slept every day without doing anything at all, you would reach the realm of an Empyrean sooner or later. There is just no need for you to take such a great risk to come adventuring. As long as you live a calm and diligent life and adventure under the protection of your elders, you can still easily become an extreme Empyrean. The monster youth was extremely worried as he saw how eager Xiao Moxian was to travel through the Azura Road alone. He immediately cautioned her. However, Xiao Moxian naturally hated following the rules of others to begin with, so why would she listen to his advice? Humph, who cares about an extreme Empyrean? I already said that I will become a true divinity in the future, and that is only the barest minimum. You can hurry up and return by yourself, don't bother me anymore. Xiao Moxian dismissively waved her hand, hinting for the monster youth to leave post-haste. The monster youth was left speechless. Become a true divinity, and that was also the barest minimum. This junior apprentice sister of his had ambitions that were far too high. He ruefully smiled and then embarrassingly said, Junior apprentice sister, you are being too mischievous. If something happens to you, how can I explain that to grandfather? Then again. Hey. Stop being so nagging, you're just like some old lady. Do you still have something you need to say? If not, then we're going to leave first. Xiao Moxian broke apart the monster youth's argument. She raised her chin towards Lin Ming, indicating for them to leave. The monster youth's smile froze on his face. This was an extremely embarrassing matter for him. He was one of the most outstanding young elites of the monster race and also one of the likely candidates to be the next monster emperor. Otherwise, how could he have been able to enter the Azura Road with Xiao Moxian to adventure together? But now, he had been labeled a nagging old lady by Xiao Moxian. How could he feel comfortable about this? Junior apprentice sister, since ancient times the truth has never been easy to hear. As the monster youth spoke to her, he suddenly realized something. He turned to Lin Ming and said, Wait, who are you? The monster youth had naturally noticed Lin Ming, who wasn't standing too far from Xiao Moxian. But after he glanced over his humble and common appearance as well as his divine transformation realm cultivation, he didn't pay further attention to him. But now, Xiao Moxian wanted to go through the Azura Road and also bring this shabby-looking young man with her. And most importantly of all, he was a human. As someone born of the monster race, he was raised with a negative impression of humans. He didn't want Xiao Moxian to have too much contact with humans at all. Moreover, he also knew that this junior apprentice sister of his had an extremely high-handed mind and normally didn't have a liking for anyone. Now, she didn't even want him to accompany her as she traveled through the Azura Road, so why would she bring this boy with her? Just what specialty did this young man have? He had been together with Xiao Moxian for most of the time, so where had this unknown boy suddenly come from, and why did the two of them seem to be on good terms with each other? Lin Ming originally didn't have any plans to bother responding to this monster youth, but then he also saw Xiao Moxian curiously looking at him. It was obvious that he would need to reply to this question sooner or later, so he simply said, "My name is Lin Lanjian." Lin Lanjian was the name that Lin Ming had used before when he entered the Four Divine Kingdoms and was being chased down by the Azura Divine Kingdom. Lin Lanjian? So your surname is also Lin? You have the same last name as that abnormal fellow I know. Xiao Moxian couldn't help but inevitably form these associations. Her senior apprentice brother frowned, grumpily saying, "Junior apprentice sister, you plan on journeying through the Azura Road and you want to go with this young man too? Why do you care so much about what I want to do?" Of course I have to care. This person comes from unknown origins and there is nothing we know about him. All we know is that he is a human, and you should know that humans are greedy and deceitful liars. In these last several billions of years, how many great wars have erupted within the divine realm between humanity and us monsters? How many of our people have died? This is because humans have always lusted after our resources. The monster youth had no goodwill towards humans. He didn't hold anything back as he spoke out loud in front of Lin Ming, the same as cursing Lin Ming to his face. This caused Lin Ming to frown. In truth, Lin Ming also acknowledged that humans were a truly greedy and deceitful race, but the other races were no exception. The saints, the monsters, the demons, all of them were the same. Lin Ming coldly said, "There is no need to speak so high-handedly as if you are any better or more noble than everyone else. There are wars between every race. Are you trying to say that you have never attacked others for their resources before?" Lin Ming's words were forceful and aggressive, each one drawing blood. The monster youth couldn't refute them. It was true, in many mystic realms he had attacked others for their treasures. Then again, it should be said that this was common amongst all martial artists. There's no point in endlessly arguing. Lin Lanjian, let's go. Where did you say you wanted to go? Xiao Moxian clearly didn't like this monster youth minding her matters. Towards this senior apprentice brother who constantly badgered and pestered her, she had no liking at all. "I'm going to Precipice Cliff, the Emperor Stone." Lin Ming stated his destination. "That's such a coincidence. I also have to go there. Do you have a mission there?" "Yes. I also have a mission." Xiao Moxian chuckled, no longer bothering speaking with her senior apprentice brother and instead walking away with Lin Ming. The left-behind senior apprentice brother had an incomparably ugly expression. He had flown so far to get here and had found Xiao Moxian after such great difficulties, but she had slammed the door in his face. Moreover, he had no idea what sort of potion this sorry-looking fellow had brewed to make her form a team with him. How could he be willing to endure this? The monster youth grit his teeth and began stepping forwards. "You want to come too?" Xiao Moxian asked the monster youth. "Humph, I also have a mission at Precipice Cliff's Emperor Stone, so why can't I take this road?" Although he had no choice, he couldn't allow Xiao Moxian and this black-caped fellow to wander off together. How could he not worry about what would happen? "Boy, just who are you? Are you a native martial artist of the Azura Road?" The monster youth asked Lin Ming with a true essence sound transmission. "Think what you will," Lin Ming said, not caring much. "Ha! What fine words. No one has spoken to me like that in a long time. Do you even know what status she has?" The monster youth concluded that Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian had just met, so he must not know what her true identity was. Without Lin Ming's reply, the monster youth said, "The girl standing next to you is the direct bloodline descendant of an Empyrean and she has a heaven-defying talent. As for me, I am also the direct bloodline descendant of an Empyrean. My grandfather is the monster emperor. I have no idea why my junior apprentice sister decided to go with you, but I advise you to watch your thoughts and not think of anything inappropriate. After this trip to Precipice Cliff, I want you to vanish from my sight." This youth's grandfather was the monster emperor? Lin Ming groaned inwardly. This was yet another monster prince. Chapter 1454, Monster Prince Juyu. Chapter 1454, Monster Prince Juyu. In the divine realm, the Monster Emperor was not the title of a cultivation realm, but the title of the supreme king of the entire monster race. The monster race had more than one Empyrean, but all monster Empyreans had to obey the command of the Monster Emperor. The Monster Emperor represented absolute authority, and the descendants of the Monster Emperor naturally belonged to the most illustrious and magnificent family of the monster race. The Monster Emperor lived for a long time and had countless children. Even amongst the monster princes there were those that were weaker and those that were stronger. Lin Ming could feel that this youth in front of him had a solid foundation. He was definitely an outstanding individual amongst his peers. If this person came with Xiao Moxian to the Azura Road to adventure and also had a great world king to protect them, his status must not be ordinary. He might be the most extraordinary of the current monster princes, and he might even have a chance of inheriting the throne of the Monster Emperor in the future. Lin Ming quickly surmised. If this monster youth was so confident in himself, he must have the abilities to back it up. His guess was correct. This monster youth in front of him was Monster Prince Juyu, the grandson of the Monster Emperor. His father was a half-step Empyrean and also had the chance of rising even further in the future. As for his mother, she possessed the purest bloodline of the royal Hydra family. The monster race had a smaller population than humanity, but for them to exist for all these years in the divine realm without being destroyed, they definitely had their own strengths. In terms of numbers and the ability to reproduce, the monster race was far inferior to humanity, but in terms of individual talent, the average talent of the monster race was higher than the human average. During the Divine Realm first martial meeting, there had also been a monster prince that had participated. Although he had been ruthlessly and mercilessly beaten down by both Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian, one had to admit that he was also a master, someone stronger than even vast universe Heavenly Palace's White King. If it weren't for this being the era in which countless miraculous young elites were being born, then he would definitely have been able to bloom in wonder at the first martial meeting. Without a doubt, this monster youth in front of Lin Ming was far stronger than the monster prince that he had encountered at the first martial meeting. Although he was worse than Dragon Fang, Han Kai, and the others, he was talented enough to look down at most geniuses within the divine realm with contempt. Of the Empyrean descendants, he was among the best. However, it was just that Lin Ming's current worldview was too high. He had seen far too many chosen and had personally experienced the terror that was the good fortune Saint Sun. To the current him, any sort of Empyrean descendant was ordinary. But to common geniuses, not to mention peak Empyrean descendants, even the worst Empyrean descendants were considered legendary existences. When great world king geniuses or even geniuses of ordinary holy lands were to arrive at some small place in the middle of nowhere, they would shine with a brilliant light, too bright for anyone to look up to them. In this sort of situation, the monster Prince Juyu naturally had an inherent sense of superiority. If he were to encounter a common mortal genius and speak a few words to them, that was their good fortune. Monster Prince Juyu thought that Lin Ming was shocked by his status. After being satisfied with the deterrence created by his status, he said, "Your foundation also seems solid, so you should be considered a somebody at least. What sort of background do you have? Do you have some special bloodline in your lineage? Do you have an extreme master teaching you?" As Monster Prince Juyu asked all of this, Lin Ming said, "I don't have any background at all. My ancestors were all mortals." What Lin Ming said was nothing but the truth, but Monster Prince Juyu didn't believe him. In the eyes of Monster Prince Juyu, a martial artist with such a solid foundation couldn't possibly originate from a common mortal background. They at least had to be the peak young elite of some sect. To Monster Prince Juyu, Lin Ming likely came from some tiny influence, like a holy lord level holy land. He probably didn't want to state where he came from in order to not embarrass himself. This brat has an ordinary background and his looks are also so ugly. No matter how I see it, there is no way that junior apprentice sister Xiao Moxian should ever take a liking towards him. Monster Prince Juyu thought to himself. Then, he was much more relieved in his mind. As he looked at Lin Ming once more, most of the annoyance was gone from his eyes. He was extremely hostile and antagonistic towards Lin Ming at the start because he himself was interested in pursuing Xiao Moxian's affection. However, Xiao Moxian had for some reason displayed a strangely bewildering interest in Lin Ming. Moreover, she even refused his suggestion to return to the Divine Realm and then expressly stated that she wanted to continue through the Azura Road's trials together with Lin Ming. How could Monster Prince Juyu feel comfortable about this? To Monster Prince Juyu, Xiao Moxian was the perfect wife. Xiao Moxian's background and bloodline were without question. If it weren't for her grandfather being Empyrean Demon Dawn, then the current Monster Emperor might have already positioned her to be the next Monster Empress. In addition, as Empyrean Demon Dawn and the Monster Emperor grew increasingly close in their relations, there became countless young elites in the monster race chasing after her hand. Forgetting the advantages of dual cultivating with Xiao Moxian, just her status alone was enough for anyone to ascend to the heavens in a single leap. However, there was something that happened after that had plunged Monster Prince Juyu into a deep inner conflict. It was that his grandfather seemed intent on engaging Xiao Moxian to the Good Fortune Saint Sun, in exchange for the Good Fortune Saint Sovereign gifting him with the method to break into true divinity. In front of this massive temptation, even Empyrean Demon Dawn wavered. This matter was one of the greatest secrets of the monster race. It was only because Monster Prince Juyu was the most likely candidate to be the next Monster Emperor that he was able to obtain a whiff of this rumor. This left Monster Prince Juyu in a conundrum. On one hand, he hoped to obtain Xiao Moxian, and on the other hand he hoped that his grandfather would be able to become a true divinity. If his grandfather was able to pave the road to becoming a true divinity, then Monster Prince Juyu would be able to follow in his footsteps and perhaps even challenge the realm of true divinity one day. After several days of consideration, Monster Prince Juyu developed a plan. Even if Xiao Moxian were to marry the Good Fortune Saint Sun, who knew just when that would happen? And if they did marry, that was only due to political needs. It wasn't known whether or not Xiao Moxian and the Good Fortune Saint Sun would have marital relations. If Xiao Moxian was disinterested in the Good Fortune Saint Sun, then he could preemptively move in on Xiao Moxian before their marriage. Like this, all the advantages would be obtained by him. In any case, what mattered the most to the saints was that the monster race would assist them in the great calamity. Xiao Moxian was only a secondary consideration. Thus, Monster Prince Juyu had terminated his seclusion early so that he could come to the Azura Road together with Xiao Moxian, all in order to cultivate her feelings. Now that a third wheel like Lin Ming had popped in from nowhere, he was definitely displeased with that. But if Lin Ming was completely inferior to himself, then that was another matter altogether. Thinking like this, Monster Prince Juyu even felt that it might be a good matter if Old Blue wasn't able to accompany them on their trials through the Azura Road. This would give him a true chance to pursue Xiao Moxian's affections. After all, for a lone boy and girl to travel through the endlessly dangerous Azura Road, overcoming obstacles one after another, he might be able to reach his goal sooner than he thought. As Monster Prince Juyu was thinking about this, he suddenly heard a roar explode in front of him. He immediately went on alert. A vicious beast had appeared. In the Great Desolate there were vicious beasts everywhere. To meet a vicious beast was naturally a time for him to show off. However, he didn't hurry to take action because there was also this Lin Lanjian nearby. He planned on allowing Lin Lanjian to fight first. If this human male was weak, then he might even be eaten up by this vicious beast. As Monster Prince Juyu was thinking this, there was another loud roar as a 100-foot-long rhinoceros appeared in front of the three of them. This rhinoceros contained a terrifying strength. As it rushed forwards, the earth shook in its wake. Although it looked like a rhinoceros, as one saw its cruel and sharp fangs, no one could think that it was a grass-munching herbivore. Not bad. Monster Prince Juyu's eyes lit up. This rhinoceros was clearly strong. Even if it couldn't kill Lin Lanjian, as long as Lin Lanjian ended up in a miserable state, then he could clean up the mess afterwards. Monster Prince Juyu smiled as he looked at Lin Ming. "Brother Lin, do you plan on fighting this one?" How could Lin Ming have known that during this short period of time, Monster Prince Juyu would have had so many colorful psychological calculations? Although he felt that Monster Prince Juyu was hostile towards him, he didn't care much at all. It didn't matter for him to get rid of this vicious beast either. Just as Lin Ming was about to attack, Xiao Moxian actually excitedly pulled out her whip. She tightened her whip, making it crackle in response. What a large cow! My big yellow finally has something to eat. Xiao Moxian chuckled. Without waiting for Monster Prince Juyu and Lin Ming to move, she immediately took the initiative. The rhinoceros roared and hurled itself towards Xiao Moxian. In its eyes, these three people were all food. It dripped saliva down its maw as its fangs glistened. Shio! A whip came slashing out, followed by tumbling flames. Xiao Moxian's figure drew a delicate arc in the sky. In the next moment, the whip wrapped around the rhinoceros' legs as if it had a mind of its own. This whip was extremely tough to the point that the giant rhinoceros couldn't break free. It immediately fell down where it was. Bang! The earth shook. Xiao Moxian flipped upside down in the air, falling straight down like a meteor. A chilling sword appeared in her hand, thrusting downwards. Kai! The long sword pierced through the rhinoceros' divine iron-like skin as if it were tofu. It drilled through the beast's throat and then a massive amount of flames erupted from the sword, instantly incinerating the rhinoceros' throat to ashes. The giant rhinoceros fiercely struggled for a brief moment before falling over, motionless. It was a one-strike kill. Even though Lin Ming already expected this result, he couldn't help but marvel at her combat skills. Her actions were neat and methodical, without any delay at all. The severe wounds that the 4 wave saints caused to her have mostly healed, and don't seem to affect her combat strength anymore. Although she had taken some medicine, the greater reason was her own regenerative abilities. The physique of a god beast is truly too abnormal. As Lin Ming was thinking this, Xiao Moxian opened her wriggling beast bag. She said, "Big Yellow, it's time for a meal." The little puppy called Big Yellow immediately came rolling out of the beast bag. It bounced about for a bit, its eyes shining as it saw the rhinoceros. Then, it rushed towards it. Lin Ming had a funny look on his face. This little dog was so small, just how much could it eat? However, in the next moment, something incredible occurred. The 100-foot-long rhinoceros actually began to shrink. Then, it was swallowed up by the little dog that was tens of thousands of times smaller. This scene caused Lin Ming to be dumbfounded. He could feel that this little dog contained the power of space within its body. Although this dog was tiny, there had to be another world within its body if it was able to swallow up that giant rhinoceros. After eating the giant rhinoceros, Big Yellow burped out loud and rolled on its small belly in satisfaction. Then, it sauntered back into the beast bag to sleep. What a gluttonous little Dao Tai! Swallowing down a 100-foot rhinoceros is truly childish. After Big Yellow ate the giant rhinoceros, Monster Prince Juyu began to casually comment. In truth, he had a strong sense of superiority in his mind. Then, he looked over at Lin Ming's expression. A Dao Tai was a type of god beast. Although it wasn't amongst the strongest of god beasts, it was still a true god beast. In this world, just how many young elites could have a god beast as a contract beast? To martial artists of minor backgrounds, this was something they couldn't even dream of. Chapter 1455, Weakness. Chapter 1455, Weakness. Dao Tai. As Lin Ming heard this name, he was startled. The legendary Dao Tai was said to have a swallowing ability that surpassed a golden-winged roc. In terms of combat ability, they were slightly worse than the 4 main divisions of god beasts, but no matter what, they were still genuine god beasts. A Dao Tai with a royal bloodline was said to be able to swallow a great dimension. This sort of creature formed their own heaven and earth within their bodies, giving them unfathomable degrees of strength. Xiao Moxian really is the proudest daughter of heaven of 2 great influences. To think that she would even have a god beast as her contract beast, not even most Empyreans have this chance. In Lin Ming's eyes, only a peak Empyrean like Empyrean Demon Dawn could have a god beast as their contract beast. This was because a god beast was far too arrogant and proud. They were inherently unwilling to submit to other races. If someone wished for a god beast to follow them, they had to first obtain the approval of that god beast. Monster Prince Juyu faintly smiled as he saw that Lin Ming knew just what a god beast was. The reason he had said all of this so nonchalantly was to shock Lin Ming and have him understand just what caliber of woman Xiao Moxian was. Xiao Moxian carefully put away her beast bag. She clearly loved this big yellow a great deal. Haha, junior apprentice sister, you are becoming stronger with every passing day. For you, dealing with an ancient vicious beast is as easy as lifting a hand, but that little fellow is eating more and more. The more a Daotai god beast eats, the faster they grow. If this little fellow follows junior apprentice sister in the future, it will surely be able to swallow up even more powerful ancient vicious beasts. Once it grows into an adult, it will surely be a great help to junior apprentice sister. Monster Prince Juyu was envious that Xiao Moxian had such a contract beast and he didn't. However, when he thought that Xiao Moxian would become his in the future, he relaxed. Xiao Moxian clearly enjoyed Monster Prince Juyu's flattering. She laughed, quite happily. Xiao Moxian and Frost Dream were different. Frost Dream was cold and aloof and she rarely came into contact with the other sex. This included even people like Lin Ming. But Xiao Moxian wasn't disgusted with men. She still had a childlike innocence to her, like she didn't understand the concept of the relations between men and women. Instead of being annoyed by her many cloying pursuers, she instead thought they were amusing. She would even use all sorts of pranks to have fun at the expense of others. Monster Prince Juyu would occasionally fall for these tricks, giving him a great headache. The three of them continued forwards. After another 10 miles, they encountered another vicious beast. The beast that appeared this time was a horned lizard. Its aura was far greater than that of the giant rhinoceros they encountered before. Xiao Moxian wanted to take it down, but she was blocked by Monster Prince Juyu. Junior apprentice sister, we still have several hundred miles to travel until we reach Precipice Cliff. Adventuring is something we're all here for, so we should share the burden. If you fight every time, then we won't have the chance to do anything. How about we take turns with these vicious beasts? Xiao Moxian looked at Monster Prince Juyu with surprise, but she didn't really care about who had the chance to fight. As for Lin Ming, his thoughts stirred. He knew that Monster Prince Juyu had made this suggestion to probe him, embarrass him, or both. However, Lin Ming was disinclined to bother with Monster Prince Juyu's devious little games. In this battle, the horned lizard was dealt with by Monster Prince Juyu alone. Monster Prince Juyu was indeed amazing. Although he was weaker than Xiao Moxian, he was still able to look down at all martial artists of his level with disdain. With his monster blood boiling over, he threw himself into a fierce battle with the horned lizard. After a few moves, he shattered the horned lizard's defenses and struck it to death. This entire battle lasted for only 5 breaths of time. Monster Prince Juyu had used 3 moves in total. When combined with the horned lizard's struggles, this caused the nearby mountain to explode and dozens of ancient trees to fall over. The battlefield extended to a large area. Haha, this lizard was quite strong. That was a fun battle. Monster Prince Juyu commented with a relaxed tone as he slapped his hands together, wiping them clean. With a wave of his hand, he placed the horned lizard's corpse into his spatial ring where it would later be Big Yellow's dinner. However, within Lin Ming's spatial ring, Soul White snorted with contempt as he looked at the great scene Monster Prince Juyu had caused. What an idiot. To think he used so much energy in fighting a single horned lizard. Oh! Lin Ming was surprised. He asked Soul White with a sound transmission, "What would you do?" Before Soul White could reply, Monster Prince Juyu looked over at Lin Ming, grinning as he said, "Brother Lin, the next one is yours." Lin Ming laughed inwardly. This Monster Prince Juyu was indeed trying to probe him, but Lin Ming didn't mind much at all. The 3 people continued forwards. However, what made Monster Prince Juyu feel uneasy was that Lin Ming only encountered a few beast weaklings. He simply didn't need to use any strength to defeat them. This isn't going to work. That beast was also too weak. Where have all the strong vicious beasts of the Great Desolate gone? Monster Prince Juyu cursed. Coming this far, the beasts they encountered became increasingly weak. However, at last, when the second round had passed and it was Lin Ming's turn again, they ran into yet another large fellow. This vicious beast was also a horned lizard, but instead of 1 horn this lizard had 3 horns. Moreover, It was much larger than the one monster Prince Juyu had killed earlier. Its entire body was jet black with red patches mottling its head. Just the tongue that slipped out of its mouth was thicker than an adult's thigh. Feeling the aura of this lizard alone, there was no doubt that this horned lizard was far more terrifying than the last. Haha, this lizard isn't bad. Brother Lin, it should be your turn to deal with it. It shouldn't be difficult for you, right? Monster Prince Juyu looked at Lin Ming with a mocking light in his eyes. The corners of his lips tugged up in a jeer as he waited to see Lin Ming be defeated. Lin Ming faintly smiled and stepped forwards. Lin Lanjian, you have to kill it within 3 breaths of time or it will be too sad. Xiao Moxian playfully cheered from behind. She was well aware of how strong Lin Ming was. However, this sort of cheer caused Monster Prince Juyu to frown. Before, when he dealt with the single-horned lizard, he had spent 5 breaths of time to do so. But this 3-horned lizard was clearly much stronger, and yet she was saying that Lin Lanjian should be able to kill it in 3 breaths of time. How could he possibly believe this? Lin Ming glanced towards Xiao Moxian and smiled. Then, he walked towards the horned lizard. He sent a sound transmission to Soulwhite. Soulwhite, you said before that it doesn't take much energy to deal with this lizard. Of course. This type of horned lizard has a weakness at its abdomen. Normally it is lying flat on the ground to cover up its weakness, but once it attacks its prey this weakness will be exposed. Understood. Lin Ming didn't need Soulwhite to point out exactly where this weakness was. As he swept his sense out, he immediately found an uncommon place at the belly of the beast. It was there. Roar. The horned lizard roared and threw itself towards Lin Ming. Lin Ming didn't even bring out the phoenix blood spear. His figure vanished as he revolved the space laws. In the next moment he had flash-stepped beneath the belly of the horned lizard. He slammed up his palm, and with a light cracking sound, that lizard shook as if it had been struck by a bolt of lightning. Its body tumbled over, crashing into a pile of boulders as it fell downwards. Its limbs continued to twitch. Soon, it died. What? Monster Prince Juyu's eyes popped open. Even Xiao Moxian's large black eyes had widened. She blinked in disbelief as if she couldn't believe what had happened. Before, she had cheered out for Lin Ming to end the battle in 3 breaths of time because she had a certain understanding of his strength. If Lin Ming were to really finish the battle in 3 breaths of time, then she wouldn't be surprised at all. But just now, Lin Ming didn't use any strength at all. He simply flash-stepped over, thrust out with his palm, and easily ended the fight. That giant horned lizard had been slapped to death. This was really too unbelievable. Although Xiao Moxian believed she could easily kill that lizard, she couldn't do so with a single palm strike. To this sort of massive beast, a human arm wasn't any different from a fly. How did you do that? Monster Prince Juyu gulped. He couldn't help but ask this question. Lin Ming simply said, "This lizard has a weakness. It has an area at its abdomen where its monster beast core is contained. If you push against this area and flood it with true essence, then you can destroy the beast core and directly kill it." This, Monster Prince Juyu's jaw dropped downwards at a loss for words. When he killed the one-horned lizard, it had taken him a considerable amount of effort to do so, but now he was suddenly informed that the beast had a weakness. This made him feel as if he had been played around with. He breathlessly said, "If you knew that earlier, then why didn't you say anything?" Lin Ming shrugged. "You never said you didn't know, so how would I know what you know? You never asked me either." These words felt as if they were jammed down Monster Prince Juyu's throat. This damned brat. Monster Prince Juyu originally wanted to test out Lin Ming's strength, but he never imagined that he would resort to shortcuts to bring down the 3-horned lizard. He simply didn't use any strength at all. "So you're a native martial artist of the Azura Road." Monster Prince Juyu assumed that Lin Ming was a martial artist born within the Azura Road. If so, then it wouldn't be strange for him to understand the specific weaknesses of the lizard. Lin Ming didn't comment further. Since he planned on hiding his status, he'd let this monster youth assume whatever he wanted. This brat, I never thought he would have such tricks up his sleeve. Monster Prince Juyu thought to himself. And at this time, they had already arrived at Precipice Cliff. Chapter 1456, This Is It. Chapter 1456, This Is It. Precipice Cliff. As the name suggested, it was a precipice on the edge of the Great Desolate. This precipice was 36 miles high and as smooth as a mirror, without any curve at all. The only roughness on this precipice were the marks left behind by other powerhouses. If one wished to leave behind their mark on Precipice Cliff, it required more than cultivation alone. They had to be an outstanding genius amongst all geniuses. At this time it was the thick of night. The silver moon hung high in the sky, reflecting a crystalline sheen upon the smooth wall of Precipice Cliff, as if the entire land was shrouded in liquid mercury. It was a beautiful sight. This was an important stop at the Great Desolate because Precipice Cliff itself was a wonderful safe zone. It exuded a faint pressure and aura of a great emperor, making it so that no vicious beasts dared to approach. Because of this, many martial artists came to Precipice Cliff to rest and adjust their condition. This was one of the few safe zones in the entire Great Desolate. Haha, we've finally arrived at Precipice Cliff. Monster Prince Juyu smiled. This Precipice Cliff is a divine treasure of the Great Desolate. It is said that it is related to the Azura Roadmaster. If one can leave their mark upon Precipice Cliff, then they can obtain the destiny of an emperor. It will be greatly beneficial to your future growth. Junior apprentice sister, since we're here, we must leave our mark upon Precipice Cliff so it can be recorded for all posterity. As Monster Prince Juyu spoke, he readied himself to fly up Precipice Cliff. However, he was stopped by Lin Ming. Hold on. Millimeter? What are you doing? Monster Prince Juyu frowned, looking towards Lin Ming. I think it might be better if you change your appearance. Although you said no one knows where you are, this is Precipice Cliff, one of the common trial areas for new young elites in the Azura Road. Don't you think there might be an ambush here? With so many people around, you might be noticed by some more ambitious individuals. Xiao Moxian didn't tell Lin Ming just why she was being chased by others. Although she didn't state it, he had already guessed the approximate reason. Appearance changing? Have you? Xiao Moxian's thoughts stirred. A sly look entered her large eyes as she glanced over at Lin Ming. As Lin Ming saw that interest flash through Xiao Moxian's eyes, he was a bit embarrassed. He knew that Xiao Moxian had some guesses about who he was, or at least suspected it. Why are you looking at me like that? Lin Ming awkwardly said after Xiao Moxian stared at him for a full 10 breaths of time. Besides Xiao Moxian, Monster Prince Juyu was actually filled with jealousy. Although this junior apprentice sister of his never disregarded the opposite sex, she had never revealed such interest in anyone. This Lin Lanjian was ordinary in appearance and background, so what qualifications did he have to attract his junior apprentice sister? I'm looking at you because you remind me of someone. Xiao Moxian blinked her eyes, her gaze still locked onto Lin Ming's face. Oh, are they your friend? Lin Ming abashedly replied. In truth, he didn't have any deliberate plan to conceal his identity from Xiao Moxian. But Xiao Moxian didn't seem to be the most reliable of people, and there was also the hostile Monster Prince Juyu. With him here, he definitely couldn't reveal himself. Not a friend. I wouldn't mind beating him up if I saw him, but maybe I wouldn't be able to beat him. Xiao Moxian giggled, revealing her cute little canines. Lin Ming was dumbfounded. He wasn't sure if Xiao Moxian was joking or not, but it seemed that she still held her defeat at the first martial meeting close to her heart. Then, there was a small interlude as Lin Ming helped Xiao Moxian and Monster Prince Juyu change their appearance. His bodily rebirth technique was itself a sort of spiritual illusion that could be applied to others. However, when he performed it on others, he could only change their appearance and not their soul aura. It wouldn't be enough to conceal them from a great world king. However, Lin Ming also believed that the world king level city lords wouldn't personally run out from their cities to lie in ambush for Xiao Moxian. After reaching the bottom of Precipice Cliff, Lin Ming discovered that there were 3 or 4 groups of people already waiting. The Azura Road was extremely large and yet there was only a single Precipice Cliff. Every day there would be many martial artists coming here in order to try and leave their name. It is said that it is common for people to receive missions to leave a name on Precipice Cliff, but there actually aren't many who can do this. A martial artist said from the base of Precipice Cliff. Hey, what do you mean it is common? Leaving a name on Precipice Cliff is a rare mission and many people can't obtain such a mission badge. Those that can are definitely ruthless individuals with considerable abilities. It's only because the Azura Road is so large that there are people coming here every day, making it seem that this mission is a bit more common. Even outstanding individuals might not be able to leave their name behind. As everyone was speaking, they were looking up at the high precipice cliff. However, no one actually moved. After all, they only had a single chance. Once they failed, it was over for them, thus no one would recklessly begin. Once they tried and failed, they would have used their mission badge in vain. Lin Ming carefully observed the area. He discovered that the 36-mile-high precipice cliff had many marks, but the truth was that there were massive differences even between these marks. Some marks were deep and some marks were shallow. Some people left behind their name and some people left behind runes. Between these marks, the greatest difference was in their heights. The higher one went up precipice cliff, the fewer marks there were. At the very top of Precipice Cliff was a giant purple boulder, and this purple boulder had the least marks of all. However, every mark on it revealed a devastatingly breathtaking aura. What is that purple boulder? Before Lin Ming could ask Soul White this question, the eager and high-spirited monster Prince Jiu suddenly spoke first. The ones that were asked seemed a bit annoyed. That is the Emperor Stone, didn't you know? The Emperor Stone is at the summit of Precipice Cliff. If you can leave a mark on the Emperor Stone, then you can obtain extra rewards, but leaving behind a mark on Precipice Cliff itself is difficult to begin with, and trying to leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone is 10 times as difficult. It's simply impossible for commoners. As this random traveler spoke, Lin Ming remembered that the contents of his mission was to leave a name on Precipice Cliff's Emperor Stone. The mission had specifically stated the Emperor Stone and not Precipice Cliff. It seemed that the Azura Road really thought highly of him. Could this even still be considered a Blue Soul level mission? Lin Ming looked up at the Emperor Stone. There were only several dozen marks on it, including sword marks, saber marks, fist marks, runes, spear holes, and so forth. All of these different marks contained the aura of laws, and they felt as if they had existed since the most ancient of times. Only several dozen marks. In all the endless years of the Azura Road, only several dozen people have been able to leave behind their own marks. That means on average there isn't even one mark every several 100 million years, right? Lin Ming asked Soul White. Soul White responded, Master, even the marks left behind on the Emperor Stone will not last forever. They will eventually slowly fade away. Only by leaving by a deep mark will it remain for a long time. For instance, that sword mark at the highest point was left behind 100 million years ago by the ancient evil sword duke using his evil divine sword. When he left behind that sword mark, he had a divine lord level cultivation. The sword mark that Soul White mentioned was in truth a bit blurry, because 100 million years of time was simply too far off in the distance. There was only a single character carved there, evil. Lin Ming was basking in the concepts left behind in this evil character when he heard some people arguing. Fine, then let's have a little competition. Our Blue Sword faction isn't afraid of you at all. Haha, your Blue Sword faction has already been left breathless these past years by the suppression of the Snow Moon Holy Lands. Do you really think you can defeat our Chalk family? Let's see just whose disciples are more amazing. As the two sides of people were arguing, someone from the Blue Sword faction group suddenly flew up. He was like a giant bird as he flew up more than 10,000 feet high. Once he arrived at a blank area on Precipice Cliff, he revolved all the energy within his body and poured it into his sword. Then, with a loud shout, he slashed downwards. Catcher! With an echoing sound of metal on stone, some stone chips were cut away by this person. Then, that person fell back down to the ground. His movements were steady. It was clear he had exhausted a considerable amount of his energy. Everyone looked up. They saw that 10,000 feet up Precipice Cliff, there was a bowl-sized mark. This was a law mark left behind by 2 sword strokes. Because of the lack of strength, the mark wasn't drawn perfectly, so it seemed a bit rough. Success. Amazing. The youth that dropped to the ground returned to the cheers of his group. But on the other side, the White Chalk family group seemed to think little of it. You weren't even able to leave behind your name and only a tiny law mark, so what are you all so happy about? White Shun, it's your turn. With those words, a person from the White Chalk family flew up. This person also flew up around 10,000 feet, reaching a position several feet above the height that the Blue Sword faction disciple reached. Then, he carved his own mark right above the mark left behind by the Blue Sword faction disciple. The weapon he used was a dagger. This dagger was like a divine brush. With the sound of wind and the chipping of stone, bits of rock fell down. Then, this disciple floated to the ground. Everyone looked up to see that this White Chalk family's White Shun had left behind a character on Precipice Cliff, White. A character was certainly much more complex than a two-stroke law mark. In order to carve this into Precipice Cliff, it required a far greater amount of strength. It wasn't something that the average person could hope to accomplish. Moreover, this white character was several feet above the mark left behind by the Blue Sword faction disciple, making it seem as if the lower mark was suppressed. This caused the Blue Sword faction disciple to be extremely depressed. The people from the White Chalk family began to cheer in abundance. On the other side, the Blue Sword faction people had extremely ugly complexions. They were indeed inferior in the first round. Third junior apprentice brother, it's your turn. The Blue Sword faction side sent yet another person up. A competition between two great influences had the other martial artists at the base of Precipice Cliff enjoying the show. This is a close struggle between dragons and tigers. They really do have many geniuses. Whether it is the Blue Sword faction or White Chalk family, both of them are different from us. It's already amazing if we have anyone able to leave their mark, but everyone in their groups can do it. Not too far away from Lin Ming, some martial artists began to vividly discuss what was happening, their eyes filled with admiration. But just as they had spoken, a contemptuous voice spoke out. This is it. How mediocre. Out of those in both their groups, there isn't a single one worth mentioning. This person's voice was loud and martial artists had extremely sharp hearing. The one speaking immediately attracted the gaze of many present. The one who was speaking was Monster Prince Juyu, who had traveled here with Lin Ming. Monster Prince Juyu's arms were folded against his chest. There was a proud and cocky smile gracing his face. In his opinion, this level of ability was really just too pathetic. Chapter 1457, Emperor Stone. Chapter 1457, Emperor Stone. Asterisk Chinese miles and feet are different from imperial standards asterisk. Monster Prince Juyu's words immediately aroused the anger of everyone. Not to mention those young elites of great sects that were spoken down to by Monster Prince Juyu, even the commoner martial artists were annoyed. To obtain a mission badge of this level required a certain standard. Mostly, they were one-star asuras. As a result, after arriving here they had seen the geniuses of great influences show off, and they were left sighing in awe. But at this time, these geniuses of great influences were called mediocre by Monster Prince Juyu. Didn't this mean that everyone else was even worse than mediocre? How could they feel good about this? Who the hell are you? You're not as awesome as you think you are. Some martial artists glared at Monster Prince Juyu. Monster Prince Juyu sneered and slowly uncrossed his arms. He clenched his fists together, causing crackling popping sounds to echo in the air. What? You lot are so weak and yet others can't mention it. Interesting. How interesting. Near the White Chalk family, a middle-aged man leading their group looked towards Monster Prince Juyu. If you have such confidence, do you think you can amaze everyone here with your achievements? Really, a newborn calf doesn't fear the tiger at all. If you want, then you can try yourself. Elder White Glory, he is simply running his mouth off. If he comes up, then I'll suppress him for you. A nearby junior disciple said. All of these heroic young elites were arrogant individuals and none of them wished to accept they were naturally inferior. Monster Prince Juyu continued smiling. Towards the mission of leaving his name upon Precipice Cliff, he had full confidence. From the attempts of the White Chalk family and the Blue Sword faction, he could see the approximate difficulty of the mission. Precipice Cliff looked like a singularly smooth wall, But this simple wall actually contained the aura of outstanding individuals since time immemorial. Even if the marks these outstanding individuals left behind had vanished, their auras would still be preserved within Precipice Cliff. Slowly, over time, these countless auras condensed into a horrifying force field. If one wasn't a truly amazing individual, it would be impossible to obtain the approval of Precipice Cliff. The higher one went up Precipice Cliff, the more intense the aura would be and the greater the pressure. The higher one wished to go, the more pressure they would have to withstand. Meanwhile, carving a mark into Precipice Cliff was also challenge. The larger the mark one left, the more strokes there were, the deeper the writing was, then the greater the difficulty would be. To leave behind an extremely deep and profound mark on Precipice Cliff while withstanding the tremendous suppression of the aura there wasn't simple at all. When the martial artists of the White Chalk family and Blue Sword faction had tried, they had flown up just a bit more than 10,000 feet and the marks they left behind were very simple. There was no need to mention how deep their carvings were. To Monster Prince Juyu, they were simply far too weak. Monster race martial artists tended to be outspoken and brash, speaking out however they wished. As Monster Prince Juyu saw such a poor performance from these people, he simply spoke out his thoughts. The result was that he had caused everyone to be angry with him. Of course, Monster Prince Juyu didn't care about whether or not these people were angry. In his eyes, these people were nothing more than ants. In the future their achievements would end at the Holy Lord realm, but he himself would be an Empyrean-level character. After stepping below Precipice Cliff, he looked up and lazily said, "Of course I'll give it a try. The reason I came to Precipice Cliff is to complete a mission. Is there anyone stronger amongst you lot? Is there anyone willing to leave a mark on Precipice Cliff with me?" The corner of Monster Prince Juyu's lips tugged up as he swept his eyes over everyone. Heh, this fool doesn't know what death or danger are. Two people walked forwards. One was a tall young man and the other was an ordinary-looking dark-skinned woman. These people came from the White Chalk family and the Blue Sword faction. Their auras were restrained and their foundations were solid. One could immediately see that they were outstanding martial artists of their generation. Peak Holy Land geniuses. Lin Ming judged from not too far away. From the point that Monster Prince Juyu had spoken out to this sudden conflict, Lin Ming hadn't spoken at all. He had only stood on the sidelines, watching. Let's begin. Monster Prince Juyu licked his lips, eagerness in his eyes. He seemed impatient to start, as if he were confident that he would be able to go very high. As for the other two people, their eyes were dignified, secretly competing with everyone around them. They could feel that this brash fellow wasn't bluffing, he really did have the ability to back up his boasts. This wasn't any casual competition. They could not afford to lose, because losing meant disgracing the honor of their sect and family. "I will go first. Do you think you can keep up?" As Monster Prince Juyu spoke, he flew straight up. His speed was fast as he flew upwards like an arrow. The other two refused to be outdone. Both of them leapt up, the repulsion force causing the ground to explode beneath them. The three of them leapt upwards like mighty tigers, unstoppable. How fierce! Seeing Monster Prince Juyu be so fierce and strong in his actions, all the angry commoner martial artists were silenced. They clearly weren't his match. 10,000 feet passed in the blink of an eye. At this height, Monster Prince Juyu hadn't slowed down at all the way up to 20,000 feet. At this point, the other two people seemed to be weakening. 30,000 feet. 40,000 feet. With 1,500 feet to a mile, Monster Prince Juyu had already gone up more than 20 miles. At this height, Monster Prince Juyu was still calm and relaxed, his flight easy. As for the other two, they had reached their limit. This height was already pushing their limits. The pressure of Precipice Cliff was terrifying, especially when one went higher. The closer one approached to the Emperor Stone, the greater the pressure they would have to bear. It was impossible for them to withstand. For those that lacked talent, it was impossible to obtain the recognition of the Emperor Stone. If they continued to fly upwards, they could still go several thousand feet, but they would have consumed far too much energy by then. It would be impossible for them to leave any mark on Precipice Cliff at that point. How could this be? The disparity was too great. The two of them found this unbelievable. They originally felt that Monster Prince Juyu was some talented character, but they didn't think he would be above them by so much. At this point, the two of them could not longer ponder what to do. They had to stop where they were to leave a mark behind on Precipice Cliff. Saber and sword crossed. The young man from the White Chalk family was just barely able to leave behind the simple mark of his family on the wall. As for the young woman from the Blue Sword faction, she was only able to leave behind a single shallow sword mark. She didn't have the strength to leave behind another stroke. Then, the two of them began to fall beneath the weight of the massive pressure. As for Monster Prince Juyu, he rose even higher. What? How could this be? The surrounding martial artists were all left dumbfounded. This disparity was not minor at all. The elders of the White Chalk family and Blue Sword faction also had extremely ugly expressions. Several miles away from Precipice Cliff, Lin Ming shook his head. The peak geniuses of Holy Land level influences simply cannot compare at all to outstanding Empyrean descendants. This sort of competition is only a one-sided stomp. He had expected this result from the start. After all, a peak Empyrean descendant wasn't a common cabbage. In the entire divine realm, there were no more than 10 such characters. Now, Monster Prince Juyu had casually come to a little corner of the Azura Road. To ordinary common geniuses, he was an unfathomable existence. As everyone saw Monster Prince Juyu reach just under 30 miles, all of them were clear what this meant. Even if he didn't leave behind a mark on Precipice Cliff, just reaching this height was as difficult as ascending to heaven. But Monster Prince Juyu clearly had plenty of strength left over. Was he planning to shoot straight to the Emperor Stone? Many martial artists had guessed correctly. Monster Prince Juyu's goal was indeed the Emperor Stone. He was the #1 young genius of the Divine Realm monster race. He had sufficient pride in his status. As the Great Calamity arrived, he had to give an even greater performance than all previous geniuses so he could show his worth. What he needed was to be recognized. He needed to prove just how amazing the young geniuses of the monster race were. Of course, it was also convenient for him to reveal his wondrous strength in front of Xiao Moxian. At a height of 33 miles, Monster Prince Juyu began to truly feel the pressure. The closer he reached to the Emperor Stone, the more terrifying the pressure became. This is more difficult than I thought it would be. Monster Prince Juyu forcefully summoned True Essence and rose another mile. Precipice Cliff was 36 miles tall, but the Emperor Stone was a mile in diameter itself. In other words, as long as he could fly up 35 miles, he could leave behind his mark on the Emperor Stone. By this time, Monster Prince Juyu had consumed a considerable amount of strength. He estimated that even if he were to succeed in flying up 35 miles, he likely wouldn't have the strength to leave behind a character. How could this be so hard? I have to go all out. Monster Prince Juyu roared out loud. His bones began to emit loud cracking sounds. His body became larger and more solid, and scales covered his neck and cheeks. This was the monster race's body metamorphosis. Monster Prince Juyu had activated his monster bloodline to forcefully fly up yet another mile and reach a height of 35 miles. Now, he had finally arrived in front of the Emperor Stone. I'm here. All of Monster Prince Juyu's blood was tumbling in his body and the energy within him was chaotically raging about. He had reached his limit. If he tried to continue upwards beneath the dual pressure and restless energy within himself, then he would likely suffer broken organs and even his meridians would be damaged. However, he continued to release True's essence. Once he stopped, it would be impossible for him to leave behind any mark on the Emperor Stone. Monster Prince descends. Monster Prince Juyu clawed at the Emperor Stone without any reservations. After completing his body metamorphosis, his hands had become like dragon claws. Moreover, there was a fierce and savage-looking gauntlet covering his hands. These gauntlets were Monster Prince Juyu's weapons. In terms of sharpness, it was no worse than a sword or saber. Monster Prince Juyu had poured all of his remaining true essence into this strike. As his claw came slashing down, his monster blood boiled over. Catcher! The Emperor Stone exploded with a burst of sound. A tiny amount of stone fragments were torn off by Monster Prince Juyu. Although this was only a slight trace, Monster Prince Juyu had indeed left behind a shallow mark on the Emperor Stone. He had succeeded. This strike exhausted all of his strength. Beneath the heavy pressure, his body began plummeting to the ground. In midair, he forcefully suppressed his tumbling blood and swallowed down a pill to restore some origin energy. Only then was he able to stumble back onto the ground. All around Monster Prince Juyu, the many martial artists were shocked speechless. This fellow had actually managed to leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone. Although it was only a tiny shallow mark, it was still the Emperor Stone. Compared to Precipice Cliff, it was on a completely different level. Monster Prince Juyu looked up at the little marks he left behind. Out of his 5 fingers, only his thumb, index finger, middle finger, and ring finger had left behind small traces. His pinky didn't have any strength left to chip the Emperor Stone. Moreover, the traces were very shallow. The Emperor Stone lives up to its reputation. It isn't easy at all. As Monster Prince Juyu thought out loud, he turned towards Xiao Moxian and Lin Ming, a smile on his face. He wanted to see just what it would be like when Lin Ming tried to complete this mission. Chapter 1458, Prize. Chapter 1458, Prize. At the base of Precipice Cliff, dozens of martial artists looked up at the mark left behind on the Emperor Stone. Although Monster Prince Juyu had left behind only the shallowest of marks, this mark still left behind a profound impression as it reflected within everyone's eyes. That monster youth can actually leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone, but we can't even fly higher than 20 miles, the difference is too great. This could be called a scene that isn't encountered even in 10,000 years. It's not as much as 10,000 years. The trace he left behind is a bit shallow, so it should be a 1,000-year event. Even so, a 1,000-year event is shocking enough. After all, the Azura Road is comprised of numerous geniuses of the 33-layered heavens. The ones who were angry because of Monster Prince Juyu's overly arrogant and provocative attitude were all left silent. The White Chalk family and Blue Sword faction also felt ashamed of their own inferiority. But to them it still wasn't a disgrace to lose to such an outstanding individual. The difference was simply too great at the start. This monster youth might be an Empyrean descendant, someone said in whispered hushes. The reason that the Emperor Stone was called the Emperor Stone was that those who could leave behind a mark on it could become an Empyrean in the future, an absolute emperor of the people. An Empyrean, that level of existence left far too great an impact on the average person. As everyone was speaking, Monster Prince Juyu only faintly smiled, not thinking much about it. As for the White Chalk family and Blue Sword faction that had instigated a competition with him, he didn't bother with them anymore. He had already defeated them miserably enough. Rather, it should be said that slapping these people in the face didn't mean anything to Monster Prince Juyu. The face he wanted to slap belonged to Lin Lanjian. He had long been sick of seeing that brat. Thus, he sent Xiao Moxian and Lin Ming a true essence sound transmission. Junior apprentice sister, I only displayed a humble showing of my skills just now. It should be your turn to give it a try. And you too, Lin Lanjian, you should try to complete your mission as well. Come and give it a try. Do you think you can reach 30 miles at least? As Monster Prince Juyu spoke, the cunning light in his eyes grew even brighter. Xiao Moxian didn't reply to Monster Prince Juyu's true essence sound transmission. At this time, her wide and blinking eyes were staring at Lin Ming. Hey, what mission do you have? Xiao Moxian lifted her own mission badge and stuck out her slender neck like a curious child, wanting to see just what Lin Ming's mission badge was. Precipice Cliff, leave a name upon the Emperor Stone. Lin Ming lightly said. As Xiao Moxian heard this, she revealed an expression as if she had already expected this. So it really was the Emperor Stone. I have the same mission. It seems we'll fail this mission if we can't leave our mark on the Emperor Stone. Millimeter. Lin Ming nodded. Xiao Moxian's mission was the same as his. This proved that she too had been approved by the Azura Road's heavenly Tao. Hehe, I've already been wanting to compete with you. As Xiao Moxian said these words, her liquid eyes flashed with a playful light. If we were to fight directly I'd probably lose, but, aren't you older than me? Hee, since I can't beat you up let's compare our talent and potential instead. Just who is better than whom in the end? As Xiao Moxian spoke, Lin Ming's mind stirred. Indeed, this impish little enchantress' words had aroused his fighting spirit. What Xiao Moxian said was right. In terms of individual strength, she was slightly worse than he was. But in terms of talent and potential, that was a completely separate matter. Xiao Moxian's glorious name had already spread throughout the entire divine realm. Whether it was before the first martial meeting or after the first martial meeting, Xiao Moxian had been recognized as the one possessing the most talent in the entire divine realm. Even though Lin Ming and Frost Dream had the most dazzling performances in the first martial meeting and had taken first and second place, they still weren't able to shake Xiao Moxian's status as the number one most talented individual in the entire divine realm. The physique of a god-beast was formidable enough to stir the anger of the heavens. Just by growing up, she would reach a level close to an Empyrean. And beyond her god-beast physique, she also possessed a ridiculously high perception and had inherited Empyrean Demandorn's martial talent. Moreover, she had nearly unlimited top resources at her disposal. For her, becoming an extreme Empyrean was the most basic accomplishment she would have. There was a high chance she could step into the realm of true divinity. Lin Ming also wanted to know just how his own potential was compared to Xiao Moxian's. Okay, then let's compete a bit. Ever since Lin Ming arrived at the Azura Road, he could feel that there were far too many powerhouses in the world. It was impossible to know where the peak of martial arts was. In his life, nearly every person he met could be an opponent of his. During the first martial meeting, Lin Ming had defeated Xiao Moxian, but he always felt that this victory was wrong because of his advantage in age. But now, he could fairly compete with Xiao Moxian. Hearing Lin Ming agree, Xiao Moxian chuckled. Great. The two still used true essence sound transmissions to speak. Not too far away, monster Prince Juyu's complexion was ugly. He spoke to the two of them and yet neither of them had responded to him. Instead, they spoke to each other and also seemed to be having some fun and interesting conversation. This made him feel as if he were being treated as empty air. Hey, don't you think it would be a bit more fun if we had a little prize? Without some type of prize, it's a bit of a boring competition, don't you think? Xiao Moxian asked, full of enthusiasm, completely not noticing monster Prince Juyu's expression. Lin Ming faintly smiled. It's only a casual competition. What sort of prize do you want? If I win, you undo your appearance-changing technique and let me see just who you are. Xiao Moxian ground her teeth together, her eyes shining with challenge. She was trying to goad Lin Ming into agreeing, however no matter how contemptuous she tried to be, it only looked as if she were having a great deal of fun. All right. Lin Ming agreed. In his opinion, revealing his status to Xiao Moxian wasn't anything at all. He only needed to hide the truth from monster Prince Juyu. Xiao Moxian smiled, and she did so dazzlingly. She thought to herself, little guy, I'll be sure to defeat you this time. In terms of strength, even Xiao Moxian wouldn't call herself the top young elite of the entire divine realm. But in terms of potential and talent, she was confident she wouldn't lose to anyone. This was her pride, her road of martial arts. She wanted to become a true divinity. How do you know I am using an appearance-changing technique? Lin Ming asked with a laugh. Ha! A woman's intuition, Xiao Moxian said with a great deal of self-satisfaction. Lin Ming didn't know whether to laugh or to cry. In his eyes, Xiao Moxian was a young girl. For her to call herself a woman was a bit funny. As the two spoke, they had already reached the base of Precipice Cliff. Looking up, they could see the 36-mile-high precipice cliff stabbing straight into the night sky like a divine sword. This Azura Roadmaster seems to really like the number 36. After Lin Ming entered the Azura Road, he discovered that many places used the number 36. Even the hunter game had an array formation of 36 people at the end. He looked towards Xiao Moxian and grinned. And if you lose, you can make any request you want. Xiao Moxian proudly and briskly waved her hand. Oh, yes, but in advance let me tell you that sacrificing my body or anything like that is an absolute no-go. A strange color flashed over Lin Ming's face as he heard this. Just what was going on in this girl's brain? My only request is, if something were to happen to me in the future, Then I hope that you can look after several people for me and guarantee that they can live their lives in peace, Lin Ming said after a deep period of thought. His request left Xiao Moxian a bit surprised. The road of martial arts was filled hardships and dangers. Moreover, in this great calamity, it was impossible to tell which way the tide would turn. Also, Lin Ming still had a showdown with the good fortune Saint Sun. Although he believed in his own ability to grow enough to challenge him in the future, there was no saying what would happen. All right. Xiao Moxian thoughtfully nodded. Now, let's begin. Shall we go together? Okay, we'll start together. Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian stood 100 feet away from each other. The position they chose at the base of Precipice Cliff was just beneath the Emperor Stone. As for the other martial artists, they were still lost in the shocking scene that Monster Prince Juyu had created. Although they saw Xiao Moxian and Lin Ming, they didn't care too much about them. Some influences had already dispatched representatives to pay their respects to Monster Prince Juyu. Although they knew it was impossible for Monster Prince Juyu to join their side, forming a good relationship with him wasn't bad either. Monster Prince Juyu was disinclined to bother with these people. He coldly sneered as he looked at Precipice Cliff. He never imagined that Lin Ming would be so reckless and blind as to compete with someone like Xiao Moxian. Even he had to confess that he was flung miles away by Xiao Moxian. In terms of talent, she was fully deserving of being known as number one within the divine realm. A cold breeze blew past. Lin Ming immediately soared upwards. His movements were smooth and calm. Although he didn't seem to be going too fast, he was like a stream of water that ascended upwards, as comfortable and free as a horse racing through the grasslands. The pressure of Precipice Cliff wasn't able to affect him at all. And beside Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian was also enjoying this relaxing trip up. She was like a black butterfly soaring through a bush of flowers. Her movements were brisk and light as she shot straight up to the top. These actions immediately attracted the attention of many people. There are more masters going up. Not many people knew that Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian had arrived together with Monster Prince Juyu, thus no one paid attention to them. But now, as they looked at the pair's movements, they could tell that these two certainly weren't ordinary young elites. It shouldn't be. What is going on with today that there are so many masters? Look at their movements. It seems they are also capable of flying above 30 miles. To the current martial artists, 30 miles was an astounding result. And as they were speaking, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian had already easily and swiftly crossed 20 miles. Without either of them falling behind, both of them flew straight towards the 30-mile mark. As Monster Prince Juyu saw this, he frowned. He wasn't surprised that Lin Ming could reach this height, but what he was surprised about was that Lin Ming remained as calm as Xiao Moxian. 25 miles. 27 miles. 29 miles. Lin Ming smoothly broke through the 30-mile mark, keeping pace with Xiao Moxian throughout. Xiao Moxian looked at Lin Ming and smirked. Her speed suddenly ramped up. Lin Ming merely faintly smiled in response and followed her pace. As the martial artists below saw this, all of them were shocked to the point that their jaws dropped. At over 30 miles, the pressure of the Emperor Stone was obvious to anyone, but not only did they not slow down, they instead increased their speed. Just how were they doing this? As everyone was dumbfounded, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian had broken through the 33 miles line. 33 miles represented the 33 layered heavens. This could be considered a dividing boundary. At this height, Lin Ming suddenly felt a deep resistance push down on him as if he had fallen into a swamp. Every time he rose up another 10 feet, he would have to consume a good deal of energy. It made advancing upwards far more difficult. However, this was only a bit more difficult. He continued to rise, unstoppable. The Emperor Stone was already within reach. Chapter 1459, Struggle of Dragons and Phoenixes. Chapter 1459, Struggle of Dragons and Phoenixes. After flying so high, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian attracted the attention of everyone present. Once they passed 33 miles, the pressure suddenly rose to yet another level. Every time they flew up 10 more feet, they would have to consume massive amounts of energy. It was hard to imagine just how deep the true essence of these two people was. They will soon reach the Emperor Stone. The 35-mile Emperor Stone isn't far away from them at all. Can these two people all leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone? Just what is happening today that 3 people suddenly appear who can leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone? Everyone felt as if they were in some fantastical dream. Not too far away from them, Monster Prince Juyu's eyes were brilliant as he stared at Lin Ming. Lin Ming would soon break past 34 miles. He himself had also reached this height and understood just how great the pressure of the last mile was. The last mile was the greatest and most difficult to bear. This brat, he's actually not falling behind Xiao Moxian at all. I can't believe that he still has so much strength left over. After passing 34 miles, the pressure will rise to another difficulty. If he can't retain any strength, then it will be impossible to leave behind a mark on the Emperor Stone. I want to see just how you do this. Monster Prince Juyu had thought that Lin Ming would fly to around 30 miles at most. He didn't imagine that Lin Ming would soon reach the Emperor Stone, and that his speed would also be consistent with Xiao Moxian's. He found this all hard to accept. As Monster Prince Juyu had said, for the last mile of Precipice Cliff, the pressure indeed increased by several times. Underneath that massive pressure, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian suddenly slowed down as if they had run into a wall. The aura of Precipice Cliff was really far too strong here. It was tangible. Finally, a little bit of a challenge. Xiao Moxian laughed. She looked at Lin Ming as black flames wrapped around her entire body. In the next moment, she ascended like a blazing star, her speed suddenly increasing. As for Lin Ming, he activated the power of the Azure Dragon within his body. His feet pressed against the stone wall, and with the force of the recoil he pushed upwards, shooting high like an arrow. At the same time, Lin Ming waved his right hand, bringing out the Phoenix Blood Spear. Ca. The long spear slashed out. Spear light recklessly cut through the barrier of pressure, tearing it. Lin Ming passed through this gap like a fish and impacted upwards, his speed also increasing. What? Monster Prince Juyu's eyes nearly fell out of their sockets. He was waiting for Lin Ming to admit defeat at this time, or at least approach his limit. But he never imagined that Lin Ming would rush upwards at an even fiercer pace than before. It was clear that he had retained a tremendous amount of strength. How was this possible? Monster Prince Juyu was shocked. To retain so much strength in such a situation and even go up faster than before? Just who was he? He originally thought that Lin Ming was a native martial artist of the Azura Road. Moreover, Lin Ming gave off a very humble and ordinary feeling, the type that you wouldn't notice in a crowd of people. When he killed vicious beasts on the road here, he had relied on his experience to use tricks to defeat them. This couldn't be considered his true strength. But now, looking at Lin Ming's performance on Precipice Cliff, it was true that he was the peak genius of an entire race. Good, great. Xiao Moxian joyously laughed as she looked at Lin Ming. Beneath the great pressure of the Emperor Stone, she was still able to freely laugh as before. This left everyone beneath her startled and awed. Your potential is amazing, but I haven't even transformed. I've already won this competition. As Xiao Moxian spoke, she suddenly swept her sleeves downwards. As she did so, black flames tumbled all around her, forming bird-like wings of flames. She immediately pulled ahead. The 35-mile Emperor Stone checkpoint was broken through. Xiao Moxian had no plan to stop and leave her mark here. She continued flying upwards. The Emperor Stone was exactly 1 mile in diameter. To leave her mark on the top was an enormous difference from leaving her mark on the bottom. Xiao Moxian clearly wouldn't be satisfied with leaving her mark on the lowest area. She wanted to leave her name on the highest peak. As for Lin Ming, he also had such a plan. When Xiao Moxian broke through the 35-mile mark, she felt as if she had stepped into a different space. All around her the space and time laws were strangely distorted. At the same time a dreadful force field came shrouding down over her body, forcefully preventing her ascent. What powerful space and time laws, and there is also this formidable force field. This Emperor Stone truly is marvelous. After being blocked by this terrifying strength, Xiao Moxian felt the blood surge within her and her energy become chaotic. Although she could withstand this, it placed a great strain on her. If this continued, then she might be able to go several hundred feet more at most. Phoenix true form. Xiao Moxian's eyes blazed with a divine light. Her pupils turned purple-black, as if a raging inferno grew there. With a resonant phoenix cry, a massive amount of fire origin energy gathered behind Xiao Moxian. The raging energy gushed out all around her, and a pair of pitch-black phoenix wings stretched out from her back, proud and strong. These black phoenix wings were over 15 feet wide together, twice the height of an adult male. Compared to these spacious wings, Xiao Moxian's figure appeared delicate and petite. She could easily wrap herself up in these wings. Hoo. The massive amounts of fire origin energy condensed into black flames that combusted all around her. Soon after, these black flames turned into a roiling sea of fire that turned the entire sky a shimmering black. After transforming her body into her phoenix true form, Xiao Moxian was in her strongest state. She was like a dark goddess of the night, ruling over everyone, demanding their worship. As the many martial artists beneath Precipice Cliff saw this, all of them were shocked. This black-clothed girl was also from the monster race. This sort of bloodline seemed to contain some indescribably majestic and royal aura, making everyone want to fall to their knees. Junior apprentice sister is too strong. I haven't seen her take action for 2 years, and yet her strength has already grown to this degree. Even though I am several years older than her, I am still not her match. The title of the #1 most talented genius in the divine realm is hers beyond reproach. Monster Prince Juyu couldn't help but praise. At the same time, his visions as he looked towards her became increasingly hot. This was a look of yearning mixed with desire. After Xiao Moxian transformed her body, her strength suddenly increased. The Emperor Stone's pressure was broken apart by her wings. She continued flying straight up. Lin Lanjian, if you haven't held back anything, then you're as good as defeated. Xiao Moxian's clear and crisp voice sounded out in Lin Ming's ear. Lin Ming also couldn't help but commend Xiao Moxian in his mind. Her phoenix true form really did defy the heavens. At this time, Lin Ming sunk all of his energy into his inner world. As he stepped upon the Emperor Stone, the power of thunder and fire heavenly tribulation within the heretical god tree suddenly exploded outward. Behind Lin Ming, the phantom of the heretical god tree appeared. With the heretical god force opened to the limit, Lin Ming also opened the complete 8 inner hidden gates. With all 8 gates opened, surging waves of astral essence flooded through Lin Ming's body. His entire body emitted crackling noises as if thunderbolts were rolling through his body, like a true dragon was awakening in his heart. In that instant, Lin Ming's mortal bodily strength rose to several hundred millions of jins. Even the starlight in the sky above was quickened by him. The silver threads of starlight converged within Lin Ming's body, gathering towards 9 acupoints, forming a faint mirage of 9 Dao palaces. As these Dao palaces emerged, they instantly vanished as if they were never there to begin with. This was the boundary of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace. In the eternal demon abyss, Lin Ming had already gazed upon the threshold of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace. Although he was still an extremely great distance from reaching the 9 stars of the Dao Palace, this was still something that the more ordinary 8 inner hidden gates couldn't possibly compete with. Bang! With a loud explosion of energy, Lin Ming was like a human-shaped beast after he released the 8 inner hidden gates to the limit. He rushed forwards, chasing straight upwards with Xiao Moxian, 1 dragon and 1 phoenix, racing up hand in hand, with unstoppable force. A 35-mile height, the height at which the Emperor Stone was, still couldn't stop them. They've reached the Emperor Stone, but they still aren't satisfied. Do they plan on leaving their mark on the pinnacle of the Emperor Stone? Who are they? That monster youth from before was abnormal enough, but compared to these 2 people the difference is like mud and clouds. Everyone began to shout out loud. If Monster Prince Juyu were to be compared to Xiao Moxian and Lin Ming, the difference really was too great. In truth, in terms of strength, Monster Prince Juyu wasn't much worse than Xiao Moxian and Lin Ming. But what Precipice Cliff challenged was one's potential and talent. In other words, their future achievement. When comparing this, Monster Prince Juyu wasn't able to match Xiao Moxian or Lin Ming at all. The disparity was far too great. And at this time, an even more startling scene occurred. The black-clothed girl that was flying up the Emperor Stone suddenly attacked the caped youth. Whoosh! Xiao Moxian's whip came slashing out. Blazing flames roared forth, forming snakes of flame that instantly enveloped Lin Ming. This caused the entire audience to be scared witless. This was the height of the Emperor Stone, a height that surpassed 35 miles. If it were them at that height, they wouldn't even be able to resist the pressure of the Emperor Stone. That great pressure would directly wound them and cause them to vomit blood, but as for that young boy and girl, they actually still had the strength to fight. This was too aggravating. As Lin Ming watched the fire snakes about to strike him, he arched an eyebrow upwards. "You want to sneak attack me? Hee. We're only competing on who can win, but we never placed limits on the methods we can use. In other words, we can use any method we want, so why can't I sneak attack you?" Xiao Moxian laughed out loud. Because she had used most of her strength to resist the pressure of the Emperor Stone, the striking power of her attack wasn't strong at all. Rather, it was extremely tricky, with many changes that made it hard to predict. However, this wasn't a problem at all to Lin Ming. His spear speed could also reach the limit. Chasing thunder, the Phoenix blood spear thrust out. With a sparkle of electric purple light, Lin Ming's spear broke through the fire snakes. "If you want to attack me, then does that mean I can attack you?" Lin Ming asked back. "Of course, there is no need go easy on me, otherwise there would be no point in winning. You're quite confident in yourself. Do you think your true combat strength can compare with mine?" Lin Ming grasped the Phoenix blood spear, gathering his strength. "Millimeter, probably not, however, I think that in my repertoire of skills, I have something quite suitable for this current situation, so I've as good as won." Xiao Moxian smiled wide, her cherry-red lips parting to reveal her small canines. Her wings suddenly spread out. Behind her, the black flames crazily spun around. Heaven-absorbing demon art. The skill that Xiao Moxian spoke of was exactly the heaven-absorbing demon art. This ability could absorb another's energy to use for themselves. As they were ascending up the Emperor Stone, 90% of their energy was already being used to resist the pressure of the Emperor Stone. If someone could absorb the other person's true essence to use for themselves, they could take the absolute advantage. Chapter 1460, Reach the Extreme. Chapter 1460, Reach the Extreme. The moment that the heaven-absorbing demon art appeared, all of the surrounding heaven and earth origin energy began to gather towards Xiao Moxian. Within Lin Ming, even the true essence, blood vitality, and law fragments were attracted by this strength, wanting to burst out from his body. In just 10 years without seeing each other, Xiao Moxian's heaven-absorbing demon art had reached a completely different level than the one she displayed during the first martial meeting. The heaven-absorbing demon art could permanently absorb true essence and world power from a martial artist, and it could also temporarily absorb it. Currently, Xiao Moxian was using the latter version. The first version was far too cruel and evil. She naturally wouldn't casually harm another person's cultivation. But in terms of attracting power, the latter version was several times more powerful than the previous. Beneath Precipice Cliff, everyone saw a massive vortex of energy appear 36 miles high. Underneath the terrifying force field of Precipice Cliff, it was hard to imagine just what sort of technique could still display such a horrifying might. They are attacking each other at this time. They are already having trouble resisting the pressure, so how could they still have the power to fight? Aren't they friends? Why would they try to pull each other down? Many people noticed that Xiao Moxian was speaking with Lin Ming as they walked towards Precipice Cliff. Xiao Moxian hadn't concealed her smile either, proving that the relationship between these two wasn't too bad. But at the 36-mile height of Precipice Cliff, they actually began to brutally strike out at each other. This was far too unexpected. Maybe they are having a competition. The one who leaves a deeper mark, the one who leaves a higher mark, will win, thus they are attacking each other. Some people already correctly guessed Xiao Moxian's reason for attacking. As the others heard this, they were left speechless. This was the most reasonable explanation. Really, this was what common people meant by being aggravated to death by constantly comparing themselves to others. Even if these people desperately tried as hard as they could, they still couldn't rush up the Emperor Stone, but these two still wanted to compete over it. To them, it was like leaving a mark on the Emperor Stone didn't have any challenge at all. Rather, the only challenge came from competing with someone else. Only by competing with someone else to leave a mark would there be a challenge. Xiao Moxian's heaven-absorbing demon art created a giant vortex that covered nearly the entirety of the Emperor Stone. She giggled, turning to Lin Ming and saying, "What other methods do you have? If you don't use them now, you won't have any more time. Heaven-absorbing demon art, huh? So that's how it's going to be." Lin Ming certainly recognized this move. After the vortex of the heaven-absorbing demon art covered his body, he could feel the energy within him being rapidly pulled away. The pressure surrounding him immediately increased. This was the transcendent divine might created by Empyrean Demon Dawn. As a direct descendant of Empyrean Demon Dawn, she naturally possessed his bloodline, one that perfectly complemented this transcendent divine might. "Hihi, your power is so pure. The pressure around me has lightened by a great deal." Xiao Moxian's hearty laugh echoed in Lin Ming's ears. As Lin Ming saw the heretical god tree's power of heavenly tribulation having difficulties resisting the heaven-absorbing demon art, he took a deep breath and then sunk his energy deep into his inner world. The black hole seed came howling out. A black hole was the heaviest celestial body in the entire universe, and its gravitational pull was also the strongest. Within the black hole horizon, not even light was able to escape. In that instant, within the massive black vortex that Xiao Moxian created, an even larger and more terrifying vortex appeared. This vortex was absolute darkness and spun in the opposite direction. Like a cruel circular saw, it tore apart the vortex of Xiao Moxian's heaven-absorbing demon art. What? The moment that the heaven-absorbing demon art shattered, Xiao Moxian suffered a backlash of energy. Her face whitened and she suddenly stalled. Her heaven-absorbing demon art was an extreme transcendent divine might. However, Lin Ming's divine seal art had surpassed the category of transcendent divine mights. This was a cultivation method created by a true divinity. Not just that, but the heaven-absorbing demon art and divine seal art were completely analogous cultivation methods, both of them able to form giant attracting vortexes. When they bumped into each other, they naturally had to contest to see which was superior. Everyone below paled as they saw this scene. Xiao Moxian's advantage had been completely suppressed by Lin Ming. Not just that, but there was also the heaven-shaking black vortex. As for Monster Prince Juyu, he was completely frozen solid. In his eyes, all that was left over was that pitch-black vortex. He mumbled to himself, completely unable to accept what was happening. Beneath the traction force of the black hole seed, the energy that Xiao Moxian had gathered with the heaven-absorbing demon art began to be rapidly pulled out. This caused the pressure on her to rapidly increase in response. She grit her teeth and her giant phoenix wings stirred up a tornado that forcefully stabilized her body beneath the massive storm of energy and the tremendous pressure of precipice cliff. This cultivation method is, Xiao Moxian's thoughts raced. The instant that her move was defeated by Lin Ming, she wasn't sad at all. Rather, a look of excitement crossed her face as she clearly recognized the true nature of this technique. It is that fellow's abilities after all. Although the appearance is a bit different, the aura cannot be wrong. During the first martial meeting, he used this technique to break through Big Sister Frost Dream's Dream Soul Immortal Melody and fight to a tie with her. This Lin Lanjian is really that abnormal fellow after all. To think he would use an appearance-changing technique to try and deceive this miss. Presently, Xiao Moxian had basically confirmed Lin Ming's true identity. The power of thunder and fire, grand mist laws, as well as this final black hole cultivation method, all of this together was more than convincing. There were countless martial artists in this world, and it couldn't be calculated just how many practiced similar laws and cultivation methods. But, the laws that Lin Ming cultivated were extremely rare. One could even say that he was the only one to practice them. Those that practiced similar laws as he did could be called nearly zero. In addition, the talent and potential that this Lin Lanjian displayed could not be wrong. A freak is really a freak. 10 years later I've already improved so much, but I still can't catch up to him. He's growing too fast. As Xiao Moxian was thinking, her hands weren't lying idle. Although she was covered by the vortex of that black hole seed, she still had the strength to fight. Counterforce, heaven-absorbing demon art. Xiao Moxian accumulated all the strength she absorbed with the heaven-absorbing demon art into a Dao diagram and then shot it outwards. Bang! With a loud explosion, the vortex barrier created by the black hole seed had an opening forcefully torn apart by Xiao Moxian, allowing her to rush through. Consider yourself ruthless enough. This miss isn't going to play with you anymore. Xiao Moxian's figure flickered as she flew straight towards the peak of the Emperor Stone. However, the brief exchange just then had consumed a great deal of her strength. Her speed wasn't too fast and it wasn't easy for her to resist the pressure. Seeing Xiao Moxian end the battle, Lin Ming received the black hole seed and pursued her towards the peak. As everyone below saw this happen, they were left dazed. What an intense battle, and yet they still have the strength to carve their mark in the stone. You're wrong. Although that exchange looked like an intense battle just now, it was mostly an exchange of energy. They haven't used up too much true essence. Among the many martial artists present, there were those with extraordinary sight. The one who spoke was correct. Even though Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian were unrivaled geniuses of their generation, they still couldn't ignore the pressure of the Emperor Stone. Thus, the moves that these two people used were to save energy as a premise. Although that exchange seemed like an intense battle, it was in truth a competition of energy. In the end, Lin Ming had taken the upper hand. Withstanding the ever-increasing pressure, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian simultaneously reached the peak of the Emperor Stone. At this time, the two of them weren't relaxed either. They were both using around 95% of their strength to resist the pressure of the Emperor Stone. Xiao Moxian was the first to move. The Emperor Stone was extremely firm, far harder than divine iron. Xiao Moxian's right hand turned into a phoenix claw as she slashed at the wall, forcefully digging out chunks of stone. Although the Emperor Stone was hard, Xiao Moxian still possessed a god-beast body. In addition to her true essence flooding her moves, carving something into the Emperor Stone wasn't difficult at all. Peng! 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 Rocks shattered. Xiao Moxian's blood vitality tumbled within her body. She vigorously summoned her energy, releasing a barrage of strikes as pieces of the stone wall were torn down. Each piece of crushed stone was no smaller than those brought down by Monster King Juyu's own claw strike. Meanwhile, Lin Ming used his fingers as a spear, pointing them towards the Emperor Stone. Spear light wrapped around his fingers, forming a divine blade. Wherever his fingers pointed, stone chunks would tumble down. He had already touched upon the threshold of the 9 stars of the Dao Palace. In terms of mortal bodily strength, he was no worse than Xiao Moxian. In addition, his true essence was many times deeper than Xiao Moxian's. The number of rock chunks he brought tumbling down was even more than hers. The two of them revealed their supernatural powers. After striking at once, they didn't stop at all, but rather continued with an onslaught of attack. The two of them weren't satisfied with leaving just traces behind. They wanted to carve characters into the Emperor Stone. The character that Xiao Moxian formed was a square foot large. As for the character that Lin Ming left behind, it was actually a bit bigger. On Precipice Cliff, being able to leave behind a small trace on the Emperor Stone was already an accomplishment. For the average person to leave behind a simple character was extremely strenuous. They would have to use up dozens of times more strength. Ca. The sound of chipping stone sounded out in the air, alarming to all. Xiao Moxian's attacks were as smooth as the wind. Even so, her complexion began to pale. It was clear she had consumed a tremendous amount of energy. In just 10 breaths of time, a delicate and beautiful character appeared on the peak of Precipice Cliff. This was the character that represented her name, Xian. And nearby, Lin Ming had also completed carving his last name, Lin. This Lin character had a penmanship that flowed like dragons and snakes, as if it were formed by dancing blades. Smooth strokes, sharp turns, a fierce momentum, just looking at it made one feel as if the aura could injure them. It was like this character contained the mysteries of martial arts within it. It could be its own cultivation method inheritance. What a magnificent character! At this time, The people below were no longer marveling at the square-foot-long characters that Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian had left behind on the Emperor Stone. Rather, their attention was attracted by the concepts left behind in those two characters. The Xian contained a nimble and elegant aura. One Lin contained a swift and fierce aura, like a divine spear. Both characters complemented each other, enhancing the beauty of the other, each with their own advantages. They really are amazing geniuses of the younger generation. Everyone held their breath as they looked at the scene upon the Emperor Stone. No one knew that not too far away, two pairs of eyes were looking at everything happening upon Precipice Cliff from a space distortion. Those two must be the ones that completed the Hunter game trial at the City of Discord and Wave City. One possesses the body of a phoenix god beast and the other has inherited the legacy of an unrivaled powerhouse. These two youths have infinite potential. Interesting, how interesting. In the great world of the 33-layered heavens, it seems an all-new story will be written. Perhaps it will be different from the past. As the two voices spoke, they gradually faded away. From beginning to end, no one was able to feel their aura. They seemed to have completely fused with the space around the Azura Road, no one able to sense them at all. Chapter 1461, The Azura Sutra. Chapter 1461, The Azura Sutra. After reaching the peak of the Emperor Stone and carving in the character of Xian, Xiao Moxian had expended 80 to 90% of her true essence. She was already finding it hard to maintain flight. As she glanced over, she could see that Lin Ming had also carved his surname Lin into the stone wall. The Lin and Xian characters were about the same size, a square foot, but the Lin character had deeper and more forceful strokes, with a vigorous and fascinating aura. The concepts contained within this character were even better. This was the killing intent that Lin Ming had gathered by fighting over many years and passing through numerous battlefields where his life or death hung on the edge. The flavor of his life was reflected in the character that he drew. In this aspect, Xiao Moxian, who had grown up in Demon Dawn Heavenly Palace and had experienced far fewer hardships and tribulations, simply couldn't compare with Lin Ming. A freak is really a freak, his potential is actually so strong. I wonder just what secret he has on him, Xiao Moxian said, unconvinced. She possessed a phoenix true form, and at the age of 26 she had reached the middle divine sea realm where she was able to contend with peak Empyrean descendants that were 40 years of age. Even so, in terms of talent and potential, she still wasn't able to surpass Lin Ming, but was instead faintly overshadowed by him. It was hard to imagine just what Lin Ming relied on to come this far. At this time, a deep purple light radiated out from the Emperor Stone. This purple light wildly surged outwards, blinding the eyes of everyone below. What is this? Xiao Moxian was startled. She was already near her limit. Before this she had used the heaven-absorbing demon art to confront Lin Ming's black hole seed and had suffered a great loss, causing her to consume a considerable amount of energy. Now, this divine light had suddenly appeared, illuminating the world. She felt a strange power flow into her body along with the divine light. With a soft cry, she lost her balance and nearly fell down. But suddenly, she felt herself lighten as a hand gripped her wrist. A flow of true essence entered her body, revitalizing her nearly dried-up inner world. Even through her sleeves, Xiao Moxian could feel the strength in this hand. The grip was solid and the fingers were strong. She didn't need to look to know who it was. Lin Ming originally had a deeper reservoir of true essence than she did, and after the confrontation in which he came out ahead, he certainly had strength to spare. Lin Ming only grasped Xiao Moxian's wrist for a minute. After pouring his true essence into her, he distanced himself. He originally wanted to ask if she was all right, but at this time a startling scene occurred on the Emperor Stone. It wasn't just Lin Ming, everyone beneath Precipice Cliff was looking upwards in astonishment. Above the Emperor Stone, a dazzling divine light shimmered, eventually gathering into golden characters. These characters flashed into existence atop the Emperor Stone, exuding a profound strength that blinded all. As everyone looked at these characters, they felt a stabbing pain in their eyes, as if they would soon lose their vision. Many people couldn't help but close their eyes and hide away. There were even some people that began bleeding from their eyes. What is happening? Is this a world phenomenon? Is it because two unrivaled geniuses both carved their name on the peak of the Emperor Stone that they have stirred up a world phenomenon? Many people immediately thought. In this world, when someone extraordinary occurred, it was easy for world phenomena to be aroused. That Lin Lanjian, just what did he do? And what are those golden characters writing? Not too far away from Precipice Cliff, Monster Prince Juyu's eyes were wide open. He wanted to see just what was appearing on the Emperor Stone. He could faintly feel that the golden characters were some sort of extraordinary treasure. After arriving at Precipice Cliff, he heard that if he could leave his name on the Emperor Stone, not only would he receive the support of the countless destinies imbued onto the Emperor Stone, but he would also receive a reward. Now, Monster Prince Juyu suspected that these glowing golden words were the contents of the reward. After looking at them, there would likely be some tremendous harvest. However, no matter how Monster Prince Juyu poured true essence into his eyes, he was unable to clearly make out these characters. Instead, the great pressure from them caused his eyes to bleed and balloon outwards as if they would soon explode. Damn it! Monster Prince Juyu cursed, unwillingness swelling up within him. The blood vessels in his eyes had burst apart, leaving them dyed deep red. He had no choice but to close his eyes. But, if his eyes didn't work, then he would use his sense. Monster Prince Juyu sent out his divine sense, wanting to probe the shining characters on the Emperor Stone. However, the moment his divine sense broke through the pressure of Precipice Cliff with great difficulty and rose 36 miles high, touching those shining characters, Monster Prince Juyu felt his own divine sense fall into an endless maze, nearly causing his soul to collapse. Monster Prince Juyu cried out in pain as if a snake had bitten him. He hastily pulled back his divine sense. However, just that brief contact alone had caused him to vomit blood. His face paled and even his soul was injured. The Emperor Stone was one of the miracles left behind in the Azura Road. No matter who it was, regardless of their cultivation, anyone that dared to challenge its rules would suffer the punishment of the Emperor Stone. At this time, high in the air, Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian were able to clearly see the shimmering characters. The first row only had a few simple words, plain and humble. The characters glowed with a divine light, flickering about like beating flames. These words were, Azura Sutra. Underneath these words were smaller words, the 33 heavens, the boundless great Tao. My resolve is to seek the peak of all martial arts. I spent 3 billion years to travel through the 33 heavens, cultivating 33 lives. One life, one Empyrean, one life, one divinity. What I seek is the highest truth of the heavenly Tao. These words were clearly no sort of heart mantra or cultivation method. Rather, it was a preface. It was likely the preface written by the Azura Road Master himself, the preface of the Azura Sutra. This preface was more precious than any gold. Although it started with several dozen words and continued for hundreds more, after reading them Lin Ming felt his mind shake. In this preface, it was written that in order for the Azura Road Master to seek the peak of martial arts, he spent 3 billion years to travel through the 33 heavens. In every layered heaven, the Azura Road Master would seal away his life's cultivation and begin from nothing. Like this, he cultivated 33 lives. Each life was 100 million years. Moreover, through these 100 million years, he cultivated from a mortal to an Empyrean and even stepped into the realm of God, becoming a true divinity. This was what it meant within the preface when it wrote, one life, one Empyrean, one life, one divinity. However, even after fully cultivating 33 lives, the Azura Road Master still hadn't reached the goal he sought. Even after combining the 33 heavenly Taos, he still felt that something was missing. The 33 heavenly Taos were by no means the entirety of all martial art. The Azura Road Master had used 300 million years to create his own world, the Azura Road. As a result, he speculated that the complete heavenly Tao was a total of 36. In other words, 36 layered heavens. It was only that for some reasons, the last 3 layered heavens were unable to fully evolve, but rather became universe seed. If one could breed these 3 universe seeds and gather all 36 heavenly Taos, they could become aware of the highest truths in all of existence, controlling the world and even creating their own heaven, becoming the lord of all creation. As Lin Ming read this preface, he felt his heart overwhelmed with awe, unable to speak at all. He naturally knew that these three final layered heavens were the demon bead, magic cube, and that mysterious purple card. These three divine objects were the essence of the universe seed. If one could completely evolve them and gather all 36 heavenly Taos, one could become the ultimate ruler of all, the Azura Road Master. Too terrifying. Lin Ming was bewildered. Just the preface alone meant that the Azura Road Master must have lived for at least 3.6 billion years. He had cultivated 33 lives, becoming a true divinity in each one. Then, he spent 300 million years to create a world like the Azura Road. Just what sort of concept was that? It was hard to imagine just what boundary the Azura Roadmaster had reached. Such an existence, were they dead or alive? If they were dead, where was their body now? All of these questions raced through Lin Ming's mind. And at this time, he discovered that on the Emperor Stone, after this preface, an incomparably ancient scripture began to appear. Each line contained shimmering traces of the Great Tao. Every character of his ancient scripture contained unimaginably profound concepts. The traces of the Great Tao mixed together 33 heavenly Taos, infinitely mysterious. Lin Ming's mind shook. He no longer paid attention to matters of the Azura Roadmaster but instead fully invested himself in this ancient scripture. Near Lin Ming, Xiao Moxian was also in a similar state. Although the shimmering characters on the Emperor Stone weren't too numerous, the truth was that they contained an incomprehensibly large amount of information. Just remembering the words themselves wasn't difficult, but wanting to remember all the concepts contained within these words required an incredibly high perception. And Lin Ming and Xiao Moxian were two such people with monstrous perceptions. In just 10 breaths of time, only several hundred words shimmered into existence. This writing was likely not the main content of the Azura Sutra. There was no cultivation method. Rather, it was likely a general outline of a sort. Although it didn't involve specific techniques, the layers upon layers of profound mysteries within this general outline was enough to give one endless advantages. After the light slowly dimmed down, Lin Mind and Xiao Moxian looked at each other. They could see the excitement and awe gazing back in each other's eyes. This is a cultivation method manual left behind by the Azura Roadmaster? It seems to be, but this is only a vague outline. To use this alone to practice anything is impossible. At this time, high up in the air, Lin Ming could no longer feel the pressure of the Emperor Stone. He easily floated in the sky. It was obvious he had obtained the complete approval of the Emperor Stone. As he glanced down, he saw that because of the flash of divine light just now, the many martial artists underneath Precipice Cliff were left in a much worse state. Many of them were injured, with blood dripping down from their eyes. There were even some individuals who tried to use their divine sense to probe the Emperor Stone and were heavily injured, receiving damage to the soul as a result. We're probably the only ones who saw the Azura Sutra. Lin Ming thoughtfully said. It seemed that this was the reward left behind by the Azura Road Master. This was also reasonable. The Azura Road Master naturally wouldn't let his own inheritance spread to the hands of common people. That would simply be a careless waste of treasures. At this time, 2 beams of light shot out from the Emperor Stone, one beam going to Lin Ming and the other to Xiao Moxian. These beams of light sank into their mission badges. In the next moment, the 2 mission badges flew up and gradually dissolved, turning into shining god runes. However, these god runes were not the blue that Lin Ming expected from the start, but were black-red in color. These were Zenith Black level god runes. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,